You'll hear it.
Is there a bleeping noise?
Quiet on the set.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 223.
Flight 209, you're cleared for takeoff. Roger. LA departure. 123.9.
Roger. Being less connected.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 5019 in the Marriott Downtown Hotel in Columbia, South Carolina. In this episode, pet bathrooms, differential equations, climate change, and why you shouldn't eat on airplanes, the latest Miami Hick adventure, and the new Plain Tales episode, and Even Over the Thames. I'll probably mess that one up. So get all settled in, tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 223 is ready for pushback.
That was my chair, I promise.
And
Gave me the squeakiest chair.
Even Over the Thames.
That's better, Jeff. That's a lot better.
I even practiced that and I still messed it up.
Well, it's English. I know it's hard for you.
I know.
We struggle with that language.
Did you say it was hard for me?
That's what she said.
Okay. So I am Captain Jeff. I'm a captain for a major U.S. legacy carrier, and I'm on a layover here in Columbia, South Carolina. And joining me is, wait, hang on. Got to get this ready. Joining me is the flying physiatrist, Dr. Steph. Let's take a listen to this.
So do we get new theme music every week? I like this.
Maybe.
Maybe. All right. Depends on how much time effort you have to put into it.
Welcome, Dr. Steph, and thanks for driving all the way down to join me here in Columbia.
Yeah, and sorry I'm a little bit late, and my apologies to everyone that's watching live, and it's my fault that we're starting late this time.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. By the way, that music right there is 100% original from Neville Bounds.
Very cool.
He did that with a keyboard and synthesizer and computers and all that stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, Nev. I really like that.
Isn't that nice?
So no, Nev, you don't have to make new theme music every week, though.
Every week.
No.
You got to have new theme.
See, and here I thought Captain Jeff just had all this extra time on his hands to put together all these
not me. No.
Different theme songs and whatnot.
Nev and I were talking along with his beautiful partner, talking about arrangements for Farnborough and some other things, and he sent that along and said, hey, I just kind of made this thing for Dr. Steph's new sign-in music or whatever. So,
no, I really appreciate that. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
And then I went ahead and got a band together and did this. I played all this stuff. And this is to introduce Captain Nick.
Well, I'm just stopping saluting now. Thank you very much, Your Majesty. Oh, listen to that. You know, there's a third verse to that. The first two verses are fine. The third verse talks about killing all the Scots and putting down the rebellion, which I actually like. I think that's a great verse. But
so is that more appropriate? I know I've been using the other one that was kind of like some kind of a Navy something or other.
Yeah, that was very naval, but no, that's fine. It all sounds great.
Okay.
Pomp and Circumstance is nice. Jerusalem, I like very much, and I might even sing along to Jerusalem. But there you go.
Okay, I don't know what that is, but I'll have to look that one up.
Jerusalem, yeah, it's quite a famous piece of music, and
probably
it has words.
It has words and everything. Okay.
Yeah, it's sort of been adopted, because like there are the Scottish, the Welsh, the Irish, and the English make up the United Kingdom. Well, each princedom has its own really theme tune. So the English have chosen to use Jerusalem. generally speaking, and most of the sporting events, that kind of thing. So it's good.
So, but I thought Jerusalem was in Israel.
As far as I know,
Yeah,
they haven't moved it.
yeah. You'd have to listen to the words.
I'm confused. Okay.
Yeah, but when you listen to the words, it'll all come clear.
We'll do some
Okay.
research.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
We'll get
We're
back
right
to you
on it.
next week.
Anyway, thanks very much indeed for having me on board yet again, Captain Jeff. And for
You're
those
welcome.
of you who
So-
don't know me, I'm a bowls player, a professional bowls player from England, and I've just come off the bowling green, having played a big match where I won my element of the match, but unfortunately the team went down by 2 shots overall, so we're all very sad about that.
You can't carry the whole team, can you?
No, I waxed my opponent, who was called Clunky from Tarring Priory Bowls Club. We had a great match, but I trailed the jack a few times out of the head and had him flummoxed, so that was pretty good. I enjoyed
I
it.
do that all the time.
Yeah, I know.
I trailed the jack.
Exactly. And when I'm not playing bowls, I'm very wide and bodied and a captain with a European Airbus airline. So that's really my part-time job.
Excellent. Well, glad that you could join us. I know it's late over there, but I'm glad that
And
you could
getting
join us.
later by the minute.
Nonetheless, yes, it is. It just gets worse. Okay. Anything new with your life? Have you jumped out of airplanes or flown airplanes or anything since the last
I-
episode?
Jumped out of airplanes a couple times over the weekend.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just twice.
Yeah.
On Saturday.
And I'm sure you had some excellent beer somewhere, or
Um,
did you just spend time floating in the water and
more
at your
time
house?
floating in the water at my house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well-
When it wasn't pouring down rain and thunderstorms. But
Ah.
fortunately, that seems to have passed.
That's good.
Much less humid, much nicer running weather.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I like to do.
Mhm.
Go out there and run. Not okay. Let's see. Let's get a little bit of the administrative details out of the way here. I don't know if you have the app, whether you have the APG Pro or the non-pro version, you may have seen a push message from Paul, the app guy, and he talked about the fact that there's an enhancement now in the APG Pro app that he has been coordinating with and working with various companies to try to get some discounts for folks who are users of the APG Pro app. And he said that he's already gotten one, and I forgot what, it's some kind of a company that, here, let me look at my APG Pro app.
I know I was just trying to pull it
I
up.
think Mendelssohn, excuse me. that was your dog's tail or something.
We should probably explain because I don't think we did it on air, but
Oh.
my dog is in the studio with us today, and
Yes.
it's possible he will make all kinds of noise and distractions, and I apologize for that as well.
Hey, no problem. No apologies necessary. Let's see. 5% off Mendelssohn Pilot Supplies. I guess that's a place in the UK and Europe. And he said he's going to be adding other retailers as well, and at least 5% with a discount code that you'll be able to get with your APG Pro app. So, hey, consider it's pretty cheap, actually. And you don't have to worry about any ads or anything else on the Pro version. Available both on the Android and iOS platform. And so check it out. So thanks a lot, Paul, for all your hard work with that. T-shirts. I talked with or communicated with Justin this week, and he said that actually they have been printed, and he's actually sent some out already. Have you received any?
I have not yet, but I have
haven't
not been home today, so
Yeah.
maybe. But I know I know a couple of our listeners connected with him as well, wondering when they were going to be sent, and
Okay.
the response they got was the same, that they were starting to be shipped this week.
Okay. So
So
it sounds like
Be on the
they
lookout for your
should
t-shirts.
be arriving soon. And let's see, if you want to, I think most people are listening right now already know about the APG Slack account. If you want to be a Slacker, contact Hillel via Twitter. And again, that's Hillel, Hillel, except that you don't use L's, you use ones, because Hillel has some kind of aversion to the
The letter L.
L. Yeah.
It wasn't
and-
his favorite on
No. Sesame
Sesame
Street.
Street.
Must have been some kind of a scary character or something. And so anyway, send him a tweet, and he'll tell you how you can join the perpetual chat room over there on Slack. And anything else? Any updates on Farnborough?
From our standpoint,
Well, a little bit from
no.
over here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let us know what's
Well,
going on.
myself, led by Nev and Stuart, are going to be heading up to Farnborough tomorrow. We're going to
Nice.
meet in the pub at lunchtime. And then Nev is turning out to be a fantastic organizer, and he's got us all sorted out. And we're going to take a look around for venues. And then we're going to look at a few other pubs in the area, perhaps, just to see what's going to be good. Nice places to show you guys when you come over, where we can find some decent beer. So that's going to be a very pleasant afternoon for us. That's going to be good fun.
Excellent. And I've been getting more feedback about how many people are going to be there. I was jokingly saying 150. So, but actually it's going to be more like 200 to 250. So just keep that in mind when you're.
We'll just need a small venue then.
Just kidding.
If you can,
Right. Well, we'll
procure
book the
whatever was
Albert
right.
Hall then, I think.
That was one of the
Perfect.
things I was talking with Nev about just a couple days ago about equipment, mixers, PA speakers, that kind of thing, so we can do a live recording of the APG while we're there in England. And I think right now we're kind of planning on doing a live recording, like early evening on Saturday, like late afternoon, early evening, and then a meetup after that.
I think that makes the most sense because I think Saturday is going to be the best day
Yeah.
for most people.
Right.
It's easier than Friday or Sunday.
Well, that sounds brilliant.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to that. Very, very much so.
Now, you're going to do it with an audience?
Yeah.
So it'll be part of the meetup.
Pardon me?
It'll
Are you
be
going to
sort
do
of
the
part
live
of the
recording
meetup.
with
I,
an audience?
yeah, but I didn't understand the last few words he said. There's a part for the meetup.
It'll be a part
Apart from
of
the
the
meetup?
meetup.
Or a part of the meetup?
It'll be a pre-meetup event.
Excellent.
Yes. Kind of like what we did at the Titanic Brewing Company. Several
Excellent.
people were there while
Yeah.
we were recording live, and then they hung out for the rest of the show. Hey, Taco, how you doing? Don't lick my face, Taco. I don't know where your tongue has been.
I can
know.
tell you, Jeff, but you won't want to know.
Do you have some more beer?
I do, actually.
Okay.
I brought lots.
So
we should be good to go.
Anyway,
Here.
It's okay. No, he's fine.
Okay.
I can. I
Okay.
like dogs. They like me too. Okay. So yeah, we're planning on doing the recording of and it's a live audience, and that's why we're going to do the PA speakers and that kind of thing, so everybody can hear what we're talking about. And then afterwards, we're going to drink huge quantities of beer. Okay.
So not much different than
No,
a
not
normal meetup.
much different than a normal show. Okay. Yeah, with that, and we'll have more details about that whenever I get around to doing a special page on the Airline Pilot Guys site. Okay. Don't fall down, Taco. All right, here we go. It's nap time for the Coffee Fund.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
Obviously, my hand is very tasty to Taco. I love the Java Jive and it loves me. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. Okay, the Coffee Fund. It's your way to contribute to the show financially if you have the resources to do so. And since the last show, we have 3 people who have used the PayPal Coffee Fund Classic method: Ross Windsor, Jeff Moeller, and Kenneth Hayes. And Kenneth, actually, you remember Geezer, Larry from the last show talking about the Bicentennial Club?
Yeah.
Well, guess what?
Really?
I should probably find a bell to play right here like this. Yay! That's the Centennial Club bell that I just rang.
We need something more than that.
Yeah,
too, I
well,
think.
okay. I didn't have time to do
That's
anything else.
I'm just saying for in the future.
Yeah.
We'll.
So Larry Geezer threw out the gauntlet, the challenge for people to contribute to the Bicentennial Club, which is $200 for helping us out with offsetting our expenses, airline fees, lodging expenses, and huge quantities of beer in at Farnborough. And Ken was one of those who
Rose to the challenge.
rose to the
Thank you,
challenge.
Ken.
Thank you, Kenneth.
That's
Apparently,
amazing.
he's not going to be able to eat for the next month either. Because
It's a small sacrifice. To
yeah, it's a
make.
small, really,
Yeah,
think
but
about
that
it.
is amazingly generous. Thank you
It
very
really
much.
is.
indeed.
extremely
much
so. Thank you very much, Kenneth, for that. You're awesome. All of you are awesome.
Jeff.
Whether you give
Jeff,
50 cents, yes, sir.
when do I get my share?
Okay, it's time to move on. News.
Stand by for news.
Didn't you tell him that we're firing him?
I thought you were going to.
Oh no.
It's up to me.
Yeah, you're the one that has to fire the.
Steph is
We have to have
HR.
we-
You've got to be kidding me.
We're gonna have to have a discussion later, Nick.
I need at least 3 strikes. Come on, that's not fair.
I'm gonna have to reference your file and see what's already in there.
Uh-oh.
Let's get serious here. Let's talk some news and tail wagon. UPS freighter suffers nose wheel collapse at Seoul Incheon Airport. A Boeing MD-11 freighter operated by UPS, United Parcel Service, experienced the collapse of its nose wheel during a failed takeoff from Seoul. Failed takeoff, a rejected takeoff. How about that? The aircraft, November 277 UP, was operated flight UPS 61 on the Seoul Incheon Anchorage route, and the incident occurred at 10:30 p.m. local time on Monday, just a couple days ago. There were 4 crew members aboard the jet, all of whom escaped safely via the forward left-hand slide. There are some pictures here. This is from the Aviation Herald website, a great site to watch, get his app, and support Simon because he's doing a great job. And a lot of the information about our accidents come from his website. The damaged aircraft resulted in the runway being shut down for traffic. UPS says the aircraft is cleared to be moved, but it still remains where the incident occurred. Of course, this was probably shortly after the rejected takeoff. And really, that's the only news I have about this. They haven't indicated what caused them to reject the takeoff, and apparently it was a high speed abort because they went off the end of the runway by about 350
Yeah, it looks
meters.
like they're in the grass on the picture there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're definitely in the grass.
Yeah, I'm amazed. They nearly ran into those 2 cars there. They were lucky.
Wow. I guess there were just some plane spotters out there just happened to park right there.
300 meters out.
Exactly, yeah.
In the grass.
Yeah. So what do you think about that, Nick?
They so nearly made it, didn't they? Damn.
Mhm.
I'm hoping they didn't reject above V1 because, we all know that what's going to happen then, and there are very few circumstances that can justify a rejection above V1. But, I guess we'll just have to wait. I mean, they may have had a brake problem or a tire problem, which they rejected for, which is a common reason for not being able to stop properly, because you hear all the problems of tires behind you, and then you decide to reject, but then of course you can't brake because your wheels don't work anymore because your tires have shredded or whatever. But,
right.
Hoping. It looks like they got the reversers out. Looks like they did most things right. I don't know. Wait and see, I guess.
So it's maybe a good discussion here. So the general rule of thumb is that in the high-speed realm, you're only going to abort for what? An engine fire, an engine failure, perhaps a wind shear, depends on how severe the thing is, or anything that causes you to believe that the airplane is going to be unsafe or unable to fly. So how about in this case, maybe the shifting of cargo or something like that. I don't know how they'd know that the cargo was shifting, or maybe they were pulling back on the the control yoke, and they weren't getting a response from the elevator. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a possibility, and that is the only justification really for rejecting above V1 is that you believe it would the aircraft can't or won't get airborne. It's otherwise it's more dangerous to attempt to continue to try and get airborne than it is to stop and risk running off the end.
Yeah.
I mean, in the Airbus, actually, these decisions are made quite simple for us because all the major emergencies that will justify a rejection, they're the only ones that will come up on the warning system above 80 knots. So as you come up towards the high speed abort range, if you get a warning, you're going to stop. Because they're the only warnings that come up are the major ones that you definitely need to stop for. Everything else is suppressed until you're into the climb out. So that's one of I think the clever things. It makes the decision making a lot simpler. But of course, you're right. If you get to the point where you're going to pull back on the yoke or the stick and the nose doesn't start lifting, well, you've got two options. You can grab the trim wheel and start to, jack the trimmable horizontal stabilizer and move that, try and get the airplane to lift off back because perhaps you've misset the trims. Or you're going to just stop because you think, oh, well, we can't fly. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Miami Hick is in the chat room, and there was a very, very good reason that he
Yes.
mentioned as well. I forgot to mention this.
This is the number one reason. So if your beer is too hot, definitely want to reject to take off after
Yes.
V1. Always.
Yeah, I mean
Number one reason.
that's a given, I think. One of the tough ones is the blown tire. I've never had a blown tire on takeoff, and I've heard that it's very confusing. It's very loud. It makes sometimes a big explosion, and it kind of makes the airplane a little bit hard to control. But that is one of those that we have been instructed and taught at Acme that you do not reject a takeoff in the high-speed realm for a blown tire. But again, unless I'm there and experience it, it's hard for me to be critical of people who do abort a takeoff for a blown tire because maybe it's just so jarring, and the shock value, and it's so the vibrations and everything else may actually make you think that the airplane's not going to fly. But we just had a Mad Dog at Acme a couple days ago abort a takeoff for a blown tire. I don't know the details of it, whether it was in the low speed realm or the high speed realm, but the engines ingested some of the rubber from the blown tire. So we'll see where that one goes. But
Well, I have a question for Nick. You said that you'll get an alert if there's something that you should abort for as you're approaching 80 knots or V1. What are the things that the Airbus does? What are the things it's able to detect that it's not suppressing that it would alert you for? So obviously engine fire.
Okay, the ones that it doesn't suppress above
Right.
80 knots would be things like engine fire, engine failure. Let me think. Oh golly, there are quite a few. A major control problem. Major hydraulic failures. Really, it has to be triple system failures. So you're looking at combined failures as well. So there aren't that many of them, but you can be sure that the most common, of course, is fire and engine failure. That's
I was just wondering what above and beyond engine fire it would actually alert you for, but that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
warm beer.
Failure of all your flight control computers, that would probably do it.
Right.
I mean, there are only 5 of them.
Oh, and what about the light that's behind the takeoff button that burns out or something? That's a critical one.
Yeah, that's a classic one.
That's behind the land button.
The land.
If you can't land, you're stuck up there forever.
Oh, we have a torch for that.
Oh, good.
That's just
if you're having trouble finding the land button.
Okay. Well, Nick, you threw this one into the news folder. The Chino warbirds saturate the senses.
I just thought that was a really nice thing because it's GA. I thought Steph was probably going to read this because her reading.
Well,
I can.
Can you read that? Can you see that?
Your
it's pretty
computer
far away.
is so far away. I will do my best here.
Okay.
Hold on. Test my vision here. So wave after wave of this is Chino warbirds saturate the senses. I don't know where this came from because Nick clicked it. But
It probably
it
came
says up
from
there.
General Aviation News.
generalaviationnews.com.
There we go.
So
Okay.
you need to get some glasses like Nick and I have.
Those are for the up close reading, though, right? This is really far away.
Face
All
it,
right, so-
you're going to need some glasses to see this kind of stuff.
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah. All right. So wave after wave of warbirds roared over the Chino Airport in California, April 29th through May 1st, in 3 days of commemorative flights that saturated the air with the sounds of radial and inline engines and the silhouettes of classic warplanes from another era. Put on annually by Planes of Fame Air Museum, a pioneering flying air museum, the event at Chino is logistically logical. Chino is home to numerous warbird restoration shops and museums, including the Patriarch Planes of Fame. Harry Gear, I think it says, Planes of Fame's marketing and development director, said 32,500 people attended this year's air show and about 40 warbirds flew by. I'll just scroll down, so some pictures there. It's okay.
I'm busy here.
And then, 2 North American aviation company products, a P-51 Mustang fighter and a B-25 Mitchell bomber, passed on either side of a slack windsock on Chino on Sunday. So that's the picture that it was describing.
That's embarrassing.
What's that? No.
Having a slack windsock.
No. The attraction of this air show is a combination of the amazing warbirds located on the Chino airport, as well as others that flew in from as far away as Idaho and Texas to participate. The Friday evening show included a cameo set of flybys by the Planes of Fame Boeing P-26, a pre-war open cockpit monoplane fighter that is the last flying example. Bookending the performance on Sunday was a hop by the museum's Northrop N9M flying wing test aircraft, a yellow and blue wooden wonder that is also the last of its flying type.
I thought that was a really interesting looking thing, actually. That's one of the,
Sorry, I'm trying to
experimental
reach all the
flying
way
wing.
across here
Yeah.
to scroll down. But yeah, that's really an interest, and it's wooden.
Yeah, absolutely remarkable.
So I'll have to put this in the links.
Yeah,
in the
I
show
think
notes so everyone can take a look
it's
at the
just
pictures.
descriptions of the photographs. There's some lovely pictures of these warbirds. It just struck me as being one of those fantastic events when you get a lot of old airplanes. They even had a couple of Sabres up there. I see.
Yeah. So
Which was absolutely brilliant. I don't know if anyone of our APG crowd went to this, but it looked like a fantastic air show.
yeah, I didn't know about it in advance. I mean, it goes on and on describing all the different planes that are there, and it looks like there's quite a few. I don't know if I have time to read through all of that necessarily, but
But you guys
what a
are so
cool-
lucky because there are so many enthusiasts who resurrect and build and maintain these fantastic aircraft in flying condition, and then are willing to bring them out to shows and display them. And I think it's superb.
right? No, that's absolutely correct. And yeah, it's amazing just looking at these planes because you think about how old they are and what good of condition they're actually in, and they're all still flying. So that's
Yeah.
That's
I love
definitely
that
amazing.
Mitchell bomber. That looks. It was
Go
not
back
the
to
one
that picture with
Doolittle
the
flew?
pinup. I want to see that one again.
Yeah.
That was nice.
oh, there you
Blondie.
go. Blondie. It's on the P-51D Mustang.
Oh, you're a pig.
There you go.
Says
Me.
it wouldn't be a warbird without nose art.
That's right.
Yes.
And wouldn't be a 57-year-old man without nose hair. I don't have any, though. I make sure that I take care of that. Okay. Thanks, Steph, for reading that. Anything else you want to add, Nick? What's his name?
No, I think we said it all. It looks like it was a great event.
Yeah, Chino is a great airport. It's got a lot of history and a lot of enthusiasts with warbirds and that kind of thing. And so,
And if I'm not mistaken, a good beer town? Isn't that where?
no, that's
Chico.
Chico. Yeah,
Just kidding.
Chino
Close.
and Chico,
Chino,
like
Chico.
very close, just
Yeah.
one letter difference.
Probably not anywhere near each other.
No,
either in the state of
Chino
California.
is in Southern California and Chico is in Northern
Right,
California.
okay.
But,
My-
other words,
My bad.
Well,
they're both
it's
great
South
places.
California, isn't it?
Yeah, they're both great places for different reasons. This is a weird one. Did you want to say something else? You look
No,
like you were going to
no.
say something else. Okay. I was reading through Simon's awesome Aviation Herald website and saw this article about a German Wings A319 flight on Tuesday, just yesterday. Germanwings Airbus 319-100 was flying Germanwings Flight 7048 from Hamburg to Stuttgart, was an approach to Stuttgart when the flight crew declared a medical emergency, reporting 2 cabin crew had become ill and were incapacitated. The aircraft continued for a safe landing on Stuttgart's runway 7. The 2 flight attendants were treated by paramedics and an emergency doctor until being stable enough for transport to a hospital. The aircraft had already performed a couple of flights, and 2 cabin crew members working mainly in the aft cabin / galley felt increasingly unwell with headache and a lack of energy. A 3rd cabin crew temporarily felt unwell after walking to the back of the cabin too. The crew decided to open the doors and ventilate the aircraft while on the ground in Hamburg after the first 2 legs prior to this incident flight. The conditions of all cabin crew improved. Everyone felt capable of performing the flight. So, in other words, they were having some issues before the incident flight. Let's see. During the flight, the conditions of the 2 cabin crew substantially worsened again to a point where passengers began to notice unclear and slow speech, erroneous wording, wobbly walking. Several times, items were dropped out of their hands for no reason. Kind of sounds like me, like a normal. Let's see. Just prior to commencing the descent into Stuttgart, both cabin crew collapsed and became unconscious for a moment. After regaining consciousness, they suffered from increased tickling in arms and legs, I guess tingling or something.
Yeah, numbness tingling probably.
After landing while attempting to walk to the front of the aircraft, both were unable to get there. Emergency services, paramedics arrived, took measurements for carbon monoxide. One of the flight attendants showed a value of 9. Normal values of carbon monoxide are 0 to 3, prompting the paramedics to immediately call an emergency doctor who confirmed carbon monoxide poisoning. A second ambulance was called, 1 paramedic team per flight attendant, with the emergency doctor coordinating efforts to stabilize the patients. Carbon monoxide levels in the blood still rising until reaching a value of 13. Again, normal values are from 0 to 3, and their blood value levels of carbon monoxide were up at 13. After the emergency, the doctor had succeeded to stabilize the patients. They were taken to a hospital. However, the carbon monoxide values were already on the decrease and soon reached non-alarming levels. In the meantime, emergency services took measurements in the cabin quite some time after the doors had opened. However, no carbon monoxide was found. So, in other words, it's probably not a valid reading of the carbon monoxide. And they said that recovery should take several weeks to months, and that both the cabin crew are still on sick leave. So I just thought that was, we're seeing more and more events like this of air contamination, toxic air syndrome. We've talked about that before on the show, and just kind of curious, where would the carbon monoxide come from? And some people would say, well, maybe it was the oven, but they don't have ovens.
Yeah, the most common places are ovens or heaters.
Yeah, but they don't have ovens. Or if they do, they've been deactivated. They don't serve hot food on Germanwings. And then somebody said, what about the APU? Maybe there was like a misrouted duct or something like that. But, I don't know if the APU is running or whatever, but very interesting. It sounds like it had something to do with the area in the back of the aircraft in the galley area. That
that's where everyone was getting sick and ill. Interesting.
Have you ever had any events like that, Captain Nick?
No, I'm quite confused over this one. Carbon monoxide poisoning is very uncommon, and I've never heard of it before. So this is a one-off, and it's a good pick, Jeff. So my thinking initially was, were they using external air to cool the airplane and had the APU off before they got airborne? Mm-hmm. And was that air source from a one of the generators, an air generator that came in, because those have to pull in air from somewhere. And if there's a truck, a catering truck or something parked nearby, mm-hmm. and the exhaust from the truck is being sucked in and then pushed into the cabin, that could bring about carbon monoxide poisoning. And it's very hard for the body to, Steph will be able to give us a lot more about this, to shake off the effects of carbon monoxide poisoning. Once the carbon monoxide is adhered to the hemoglobin in the blood, it's much more attractive than oxygen is, and it takes some time to get rid of it. So it can, it's difficult to recover from if you have a severe poisoning attack. But Steph, probably know a little bit about this, yeah?
Yeah. So basically, what happens is if you're breathing in carbon monoxide, that's attaching to the hemoglobin molecule, which actually has a pretty strong affinity for it. And it actually prevents the oxygen that's also attached to the hemoglobin from being released into the tissues. So even though you may also be getting oxygen, that's why you are, you're actually becoming hypoxic is what it is from the carbon monoxide, because the tissues in your body are not getting the appropriate oxygen levels anymore. So that's the kind of the brief version of that, but we've talked a lot about hypoxia and, again, some of those symptoms and what the crew is experiencing. Ooh.
Yeah.
The deadly thing, the insidious thing about carbon monoxide is the fact that it's a
odorless,
colorless.
Yeah. You can't detect it unless you have a carbon monoxide detector.
But that's a good point, Nick. There are several times where we've had external ground conditioned air carts that are gasoline engines or diesel engines, and sometimes you can smell that diesel exhaust inside the airplane or the gasoline exhaust inside the airplane, and you're thinking this cannot be healthy. And a lot of times when I encounter that kind of situation, I say, let's cut that off. We'll start up our APU and run the APU so we don't poison everybody.
Yeah, probably a wise idea.
Yeah. By the way, this Jade IPA is awesome.
It's my favorite.
Yeah, I love that. It's from a North Carolina brewery.
Foothills in Winston-Salem.
Foothills.
There's their free plug for the day.
Yeah, welcome to the Airline/beer show. So we'll see if we hear anything else regarding this incident, which just occurred a couple days ago. But it's important that we provide nice fresh air for our passengers and crew because we want everybody to be safe.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I could add on, some of the symptoms too. Again, you could have hypoxic symptoms, which we've talked about in the past. You could have dizziness, lightheadedness, kind of flu-like symptoms with carbon monoxide poisoning. So that's a little bit different from some of just the regular hypoxia symptoms as well.
I seem to recall cherry red cheeks. I don't know which cheeks, but no, seriously, they're.
I think it's the ones that everyone can see. So, yeah.
Well, what if you're in a nudist colony?
Well, and in a normal situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Ow.
There you go.
Okay.
You're right, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm fine. I was just thinking about nudist colony.
Well, he bumped his knee, but he didn't have nearly as much to say about it as you did earlier.
So here's another thing. I think this was sent in by Carlos Menendez. Actually, I saw it as well, Carlos. But
I actually just got this too. Yep.
Yeah, so I saw this yesterday, I believe. And I am really, really scratching my head on one aspect of this flight advisory sent out by the Federal Aviation Administration. Is there something we need to?
No, it's the same
you're
thing.
Looking at
I'm looking at the
flight.
same
Okay.
thing.
So, so thank you. Is it Carl or Carlos Menendez? Anyway, so this flight advisory was sent out by the Federal Aviation Administration just like a day or two ago, and it said basically it's like a NOTAM that warning people that there's going to be something happening, and starting from, I believe it was yesterday, the 7th of June, and there are several days between the 7th of June and the 30th of June, and times are listed on this flight advisory, where there is going to be some kind of testing going on at China Lake, which is a government military facility. I think it's mostly a Navy facility in the California high desert. And the NOTAM says, let's see, GPS, let's see, what does it say? GPS interference is going to be existing. It includes WAS, GBAS and ADS-B may not be available within a 476 nautical mile radius. That's big, centered at, and it has the coordinates here, China Lake. And there's a graphic that shows the rings and altitudes of the affected area. And so they talk about like at 470 or 432 miles, flight level 250, 375 at 10,000 feet, and 253 nautical miles at 50 feet. So in other words, if you're
Pretty much
anywhere
to
in
the
that
ground.
area,
Yeah.
and you have a
Most of that ground is above 50 feet AGL because it's
Yeah.
the southwestern U.S.
So this NOTAM applies to all aircraft relying on GPS. Additionally, this is the part that really, what? Due to GPS interference impacts potentially affecting Embraer Phenom 300 aircraft flight stability controls. Again, additionally, due to GPS interference impacts potentially affect Embraer Phenom 300 aircraft flight stability controls. The FAA recommends the Embraer Phenom pilots to avoid the above testing area. In other words, don't even get anywhere near this. Closely monitor flight control systems due to a potential loss of signal. So I'm thinking, what? Anybody out there listening to the show, do you know anything about the Embraer Phenom 300 and what exactly about this flight stability control system uses GPS and how that all works? And I guess that it's possible that if you lose GPS, you could actually lose control of the airplane.
That's what it sounds like. I don't know anything about it.
That's the thing. I went, what?
Yeah.
I mean, they specifically cited a specific airplane. Very, very odd. So I wanted to put this in the news folder because I wanted somebody to send in some feedback regarding this. I did some searching on the internet and I really couldn't find anything that talked directly about this weird.
So if you fly the Embraer Phenom 300,
Yeah,
or know anything about it, please let us
You're
know.
still
We're
alive.
curious.
maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
First of all, avoid the area on the map, which
if you
will be
haven't yet
included in the show
crashed,
notes,
Yes.
which looks like it includes Southern California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, Oregon, parts of Idaho. It's a big
yeah,
chunk of real
it's a
estate.
huge, huge amount of geographic area. Maybe Pilot Pip knows something about this.
Yeah, I'm really scratching my head to try and work out how your GPS fits in with your flight control stability system. So I'm going, what?
I know that the Phenom has a really fancy Garmin system, and they're like if you bank up the airplane too much or you get too slow, it kind of starts giving you more pressure on the controls to override what you're trying to do, and it's kind of like it reminds me of the Airbus system, or it kind of says, well, I see you're really telling me to go into a lot of bank, but I'm not going to let you do that kind of a system.
Right, like it's something that overrides any manual.
But what would
input you
GPS have to do with it? That's what I don't understand.
Or why wouldn't you be able to override that or turn it off?
Yeah.
That's strange.
I don't know.
Someone let us know. Please.
Yeah, please.
We're curious.
Let us know. We are curious. So that's our news for today. What do you think we go on to the feedback?
Let's do it.
Excellent.
Captain, incoming message.
Thank you. All right. Let's start with clicking on the folder for...
That's usually
Nice
step
one,
one.
Jeff.
That was a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. I usually have more time. Yeah. Thank you. That was Steph.
That's what
said
she
that.
said.
Okay. Tim sent this in quite a while ago. I think it was Tim Van Ram, isn't it?
It is.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think it is. Here's one for Acme. We may be weird here in Portland. Well, Tim's not in Portland.
No.
This must be a different Tim. Here, let's see what we have here.
It doesn't have it on my info button on
Okay.
the
It doesn't?
phone version.
Oh, it's just
No.
Tim. Okay. Tim in Portland. He says, we may be weird here in Portland, but at least the brew is good. Yes, he is right about that. So he sent a link to this article. The Portland airport will get indoor bathroom for pets. And Taco over there is very, very happy about. He's looking at me like, "Did you say my name?"
He's about to fall asleep.
Oh, what a sweet dog.
Yeah.
Portland International Airport, under orders from the federal government, is planning to install a pet bathroom in the terminal. The pet relief area is expected to open in August. That's the deadline under a new federal regulation, which requires airports that service more than 10,000 passengers a year to have facilities for service animals in each terminal. That's expected to affect 387 U.S. airports. Now, my big question about this is, what if Taco is a male dog? What if he feels like he's actually he identifies more with a female? Are they going to have?
It's a good question for the state of North Carolina.
Yes, it is. So are they going to have like separate, like male and female, or are they going to separate by species? Perhaps, I don't know. That little bit of politics here in the U.S. We probably shouldn't go into that, because
remains to be seen.
When you get into religion and politics, it's probably never a good thing. So don't hate me.
So, but so that'll be for any animal that's in the airport, though, basically, is what it's saying, not just the service animals. It's just a requirement for large airports that would have service animals regularly, but then open to any animal, basically.
Passengers making a
Are
connection?
service animals becoming a wee bit of a problem? I mean, I don't mean it from the bad point, but do they really have to have entire pet bathroom areas in every terminal? How many service animals are we actually getting on board in the States?
I'm seeing a lot of animals on board airplanes recently.
Every flight I've been on in the past year has had at least one animal, whether it was a service animal or just a pet and a carrier or someone's emotional support, whatever. Lots of animals on flights.
I have an emotional support pet rock that I keep with me, but it doesn't require any kind of bathroom or anything like that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Low maintenance.
It helps me when I'm feeling anxious.
What have you called it, Jeff?
I haven't named it yet. I'm still thinking about it.
Okay. That was a bit of a weak get out there, Jeff.
I hadn't thought it through that far. But thank you for putting me on the spot.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Is
no problem.
Rocky.
It's original.
Yeah.
Okay. Now here's something more serious. Liz and Janelle both sent in links to this incident that occurred, I don't know,
this was a while ago,
3 weeks ago at least. And it was one of those situations where we see occasionally where people get uncomfortable based on people's ethnicity, the language that they're using, their appearance, etc., especially in this heightened alert kind of environment that we're living in. And this occurred. Let's see. Oh, I thought I had the article already posted here, but I guess not. So I'll have to click this button here. And this guy was a Berkeley student, UC Berkeley, and this was in April on a Southwest Airlines flight. A 40-year-old man with dark curly hair, olive skin, and an exotic foreign accent boarded a plane. It was a regional jet making a short, uneventful hop from Philadelphia to nearby Syracuse, New York. The curly-haired man tried to keep to himself, intently, if inscrutably, scribbling on a notepad he'd brought aboard. His seatmate, a blonde-haired 30-something woman sporting flip-flops and a red tote bag, you know the type, looked him over. He was wearing navy diesel jeans, and this obviously is from like one of those.
It's the Washington Post.
Oh, the Washington Post.
A lot of detail.
I was thinking it sounded more like the New York Magazine or something.
Right. New Yorker or something.
Yeah, he was wearing who cares what he was wearing? Anyway.
He was well dressed.
He was well dressed. So she decided to try out some small talk. Is Syracuse home? She asked. No, he replied curly. Oh, we should do like a
Oh yeah, we can do that.
Okay, so
Is Syracuse home?
no,
Where's the next question?
I don't know.
Oh, so then she just went to reading her book. So
Oh.
reading her book, reading.
And
but
I'm talking to somebody. Why don't you go to
Reading on
the
your book. And this flight attendant walks by, and I pass a note. I don't think he said anything.
No, he didn't say what I just said. So she's reading her book. She's listening to him talking on the phone to somebody in a foreign language, and she passed a note to a flight attendant. And the note basically said that she was feeling sick and that she wanted to go back to the gate. I guess they'd already left the gate.
Right.
And so I guess they found out a little bit more information that the reason why she was sick, she wasn't really sick. That was an excuse because she was concerned about this passenger that she was sitting next to. She obviously thought he was a terrorist.
She thought he was some sort of security threat, at least.
And so they returned to the gate, and then the passenger, the man, was taken off the airplane, and he was interrogated by local police. And he said of people that he doesn't know what their affiliation was, if they were Homeland Security or what their deal was. It turns out, though, that this scribbling that he was doing on a piece of paper that she thought was like Arabic actually was math, and he was doing
specifically differential equations.
A differential equation.
Have you ever seen differential equations?
I've done.
You've done differential equations, so you know what they look like scribbled down.
Well, not anymore.
Okay,
but
well, and if your handwriting looks like mine and you scribble it down, there's no way anyone sitting next to me would be able to decipher it.
So you combine that with him talking to a guy on the phone, which happened to be his father, I think, and he was very excited about something that was happening in his life. Wasn't thinking about the fact that maybe what the language he was using on the phone could be construed as something
positive. Yeah.
And the airline apologized. The lady that was uncomfortable and concerned about the thing was taken off the flight. She took a later flight. But again, this is one of those situations where I think that the airline staff was kind of between a rock and a hard place on this one.
Well, you think about here in the U.S. and other parts of the world where you see billboards that say things like, if you see something, say something. They're not real specific about what that something is. So it's anything that makes you, as the person traveling, feel uncomfortable, feel like there's a threat. Sometimes it's hard to differentiate threat from non-threat.
Right. I think that the reason why this is a news article and it wasn't just something that the guy just went, whatever, it happens, is that the airline, and I believe this was a regional airline that works for American Airlines. I don't think it was actually American Airlines. I think it was maybe Envoy or something. I'm not
Air
sure.
Wisconsin.
Air Wisconsin. Basically, they didn't really apologize for the whole thing. Basically, that's what I got out of the whole article. And they said that's what he's looking for. Somebody to say, look, we screwed up. Sorry about the way you were treated. And
or even just, sorry, we have to take everything seriously. Sorry that you were the target of this. Right. Thank you for your understanding while we work through it.
Yeah.
Our apologies there, and no harm, no foul.
I mean, it's easy for us to kind of look at the whole situation after the fact with all the facts and go, well, obviously this lady, this blonde-haired, flip-flopped, red bag lady was bigoted, but she may have been an anxious flyer to begin with, and then you throw in the terrorist aspect of it and a language that she didn't recognize, although I think that
it was Italian.
Most people could differentiate between Italian and some kind of an Arabic language, I guess. I mean, I think I could.
Not. I don't know.
But yeah. What do you think about this, Nick?
I guess coming from Europe, where we do mix with people of of different nationalities and speaking different languages, much more commonly perhaps than some folks from the US do. I find it I'm incredulous that people should behave in this manner. But I guess if it's the first time you've come across someone who who
Speaks
looks
Italian.
vaguely foreign, who's not speaking your language and is scribbling mathematics, and you can't recognize any of those three things, and it makes you nervous. But then perhaps you're entitled to raise a doubt. But it just frightens me that there are people out there that can have so little exposure to the rest of the world that they think that they're actually in danger because there's an olive-skinned mathematician sitting beside them. So
Now-
I'm just a bit agog at this.
Well, and you could also say, I think that maybe the guy who was basically the victim of this whole thing, if he were a little bit more cognizant of what he was throwing out there, and maybe if he had actually engaged in a conversation with this lady and said, like when he asked her the question, instead of just being
Yeah,
a
but how
lot
many
of
times have you been
mathematicians might not
someone
have
sitting
the.
next to you on an airplane?
I mean, I would probably engage in a little bit more conversation myself, but
But that's just the nature of your personality.
Yeah,
I mean, if
I
you had
guess.
work to
Yeah.
do and wanted to make a phone call
Yeah.
before they left and all kinds of stuff, you might not have been in a, overly engaging.
well, basically what I'm saying here is that you are all wrong and I'm right. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I'm just,
obviously.
I'm just a bit surprised that the authorities take this so seriously. I'm going,
Yeah.
don't they actually investigate for a moment before they pull this poor bloke off the airplane?
Well, they
And they
did.
just
They
go-
did. Yeah. I mean, they did, but they had to go back to the
They
gate to
did,
do
and
that.
he actually did
Went on the
get
flight.
back on the airplane
Yep.
and get on the flight, and it was delayed,
They
etc.
realized he wasn't a
Yeah.
security
And they
threat at all.
apologized. The people that were interrogating him basically said, "We're sorry.
Right.
This should not have happened. Sorry about
Yeah.
that."
Yeah, well, I guess it just terrifies me that there. I mean, we all do need to be cautious and careful, but there is a point at which you start tearing your hair out, and this is one
Yeah.
of the occasions when I feel like making myself a little more bald.
More bald?
Yeah,
You have a
tearing
nice head
some
of hair.
hair
What
out.
are you talking about? You don't need to be bald.
You haven't got a sound for that, Jeff. I'm sorry.
No, I don't. Yeah, and it would probably take me a couple minutes to find something. So you're out of luck. So in the meantime, I'm moving on to the next piece of feedback, which is a link to a YouTube video that, let's see, Mr. Who sent this in? I didn't, let's see here. I'm sorry.
Daniel?
Is it Daniel? Sinico?
Mhm.
Yes, from Italy. Sent this link to a YouTube video. It's actually pretty interesting, at least for me, a Mad Dog driver.
Yeah, for the first time you saw around your airplane and how you're supposed to do it. Is that right?
Yeah, I learned a lot, actually. Let's see, play a little bit of this YouTube video here. Let's see if we can hear anything. It's still loading. It's loading. It's loading. Buffering. It's a Danish air transport flight. It's an MD-87 ultimate cockpit video. It's actually pretty interesting. I was interested. Apparently, it's not going to load.
It's not. It's not. It
So
just
you're-
has the, on the YouTube,
Yeah.
like the little thing going around in circles. That's all it's doing.
Checklist, please. No, that's just me. You'll have to just look at the link in the show notes to check it out yourself, but it was definitely worth looking at. It's a very nice MD-87. It's for, I think, a charter company.
It was very shiny, wasn't it?
Very shiny, yes.
What did it say? Danish Air?
Yes, Danish
Mhm.
air transport. Hey, I'm Danish. Well, my ancestry is. Okay. Well, thank you, Daniel, for sending that in. And now let's move on to the next piece of feedback. And this is for Miss Steph from
Mariana?
Mariana. Yeah.
I think she's
Or
in
is
the
it
chat room.
Mariana or
Mariana
Mariana's
or
iPod?
Mariana?
Mariana. Mariana.
I don't know. You'll have to tell us.
Is it Mariana or Mariana? You, person, you.
So this is Anthony Bourdain explains why we shouldn't eat on planes. So it says, unless you fly in serious style, thank you. You made it much larger for me to read. Chances are that the airplane food isn't a great part of your journey. TV personality and, can I say that?
What?
After TV personality and
Oh,
We'll just say chef extraordinaire.
Yeah, like I mean, badass. Can you say
Badass, yeah,
badass
yeah.
on the show? I think so.
I know Nick just says whatever he wants, but I want to make sure that we're keeping it family friendly here. Anthony Bourdain is in the same boat, or rather plane. He uses the flight to ready his stomach for the ultimate destination, whatever exotic food he plans to inhale when he lands. No one has ever felt better after eating airplane food, Bourdain told Bon Appetit in an interview published Monday. I think people only eat it because they're bored. I don't eat on planes. I like to arrive hungry. Gorging on airplane food, which tends to be packed with sodium, may perpetuate jet lag, while Bourdain's short-term fast may be the key to feeling best upon arrival. Sure, arriving hungry is definitely important when you're being paid to eat local cuisine, like fresh grilled fish in the Greek islands. But even for us plebeians, it could improve travel endurance. There was a 2008 study published in the journal Science that found that a mini fast may actually help ward off that sluggish feeling when you're acclimating to a time change. Normally, the body's natural circadian clock in the brain dictates when to wake, sleep, and eat, all in response to light. But it seems that a second clock takes over when the food is scarce, and manipulating this clock might help travelers adjust to new time zones. The study, however, was only performed on mice.
Do mice fly a lot?
I don't know what your cargo holds look like, but maybe there are. I don't know.
Okay.
So you may need superhuman/rodent strength to resist the urge to eat while traveling to a different hemisphere. If all else fails, learn from Bourdain's strategy when he needs sustenance at 35,000 feet. For a super long flight, I'd order cheese and I can't say that word for sure. A lot.
A crap load.
A boatload.
A boatload. Hey, wait. Dang it. Now I'm going to have to edit that out. Darn it.
Port. So
What, shed
cheese
load?
What did you say?
Shed load.
No.
Shed
Ship
load.
Ship load. Ship load.
Ship.
Oh, ship. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
Like a
I
ship.
didn't say that. I said
Cargo.
shed load.
Whatever. Of port. So cheese and port. I'd eat some cheese and drink myself stupid. He's the expert, right? Wonderful advice from Anthony Bourdain. There's something to be said for the amount of, the food that you're getting on airplanes for the most part, especially the prepackaged stuff, is going to be full of sodium. And we kind of talked the last episode about.
But why is there so much sodium?
Well, we talked the last episode about how your taste buds don't function as
Was
well.
that the last episode?
I think so. Yeah. Maybe the one before. So you add all that extra sodium. It helps with your perception of flavor, but really it's just that it's packaged processed food. So it's going to come with a lot of sodium.
Because your taste buds are like
not
numb.
They don't function as well at altitude. So
Oxygen.
Yeah, it goes back to that hypoxia thing a little bit. So even a little bit of oxygen deprivation.
Yeah.
And your sense of smell isn't as good. So what's the answer? Add a bunch of salt. That'll make it taste more palatable, at least.
Or don't eat on the airplane.
Or I've actually had some good meals in flight. I'll thank Emirates.
But they purposely make everything like really, if you ate it at sea level, you go, wow, that's like really salty and very spicy, and it's just like,
I think the the thing I consume the most on an airplane are salted peanuts anyway. So yeah, they're quite salty.
We used to call those pilot pellets.
Pilot pellets.
Acme.
That's nice.
But the portions are pretty tiny anyway. They serve you on purposely a tiny plate with miniature knives and forks, so everything looks kind of normal to you. But it isn't. They're tiny portions, so it's not like you're stuffing yourself.
Well, I'll have to give you the menu picture that I took from my flight to India on the Emirates A380, because that was
nice.
Amazing food.
Were you in business class?
Yes.
Oh.
And that's why.
Yeah.
We spent a boatload of money.
Like $80,000 per ticket.
Because I have that much money.
She is like stupid rich.
It's not true. Not true.
But I like the part about drink yourself stupid.
That's one solution, I guess.
So what do you think about this taco? He's
Taco's like
putting
I
himself
prefer
right up next to the microphone.
People food over dog food. Have you ever tried dog food?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, it's gross.
That's very salty.
It's very bland.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that have no taste at sea level.
But hey, if you're hungry, you'll eat anything. Okay. Let's see.
Amazing smuggling flight.
Castagna.
Captain Castagna.
I've had this problem before with
You
his
have.
name. Sorry.
I'll help you out. That's what I'm here for.
And
Because he's from
Taco is
Brazil?
like licking my cheek.
Wasn't that right?
Yes, he's from Brazil.
Well,
Captain
Taco probably knows
Castagna.
how to pronounce it.
Yes, he does.
He speaks Spanish
Yes.
Yep.
He
and
says,
Portuguese.
check this out. A Skylane landing in the middle of the Amazon forest, probably a smuggling flight. And did you see the video?
I watched this video.
That
This was great.
amazing.
It
Yeah,
takes a
so
lot
it's
of.
like it's like a little tiny narrow road, and
It's
I don't
not
know.
even. It's like a dirt path in the middle of a bunch of trees that they've kind of cut out, and there's no. I mean, it's trees boxed in on all four sides,
And the wingtips actually are like
hitting the trees. It's not very wide at all.
No. So you kind of think, well, there must be a reason why somebody is risking their life to land in this particular very challenging situation. Probably, yeah. Maybe
Money and
illicit.
drugs.
Yeah. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes. You'll be
Watch this video.
amazed at this.
Good
landing.
great flying skills.
Yeah,
though.
you have to have good
Well,
skills.
it is, yeah. I don't know how he did it safely. And then he had to use almost full power to get up the slope to where the guy with the camera was.
Well, I'm just trying to think how you get out of there. You know,
Yeah, I guess
like
you
landing
can.
there is one thing, but getting out is another.
Yeah, point it back down the slope and hope for the best.
I
But,
guess. Yes.
nightmare.
Well, speaking of crazy things, I think that it's time now for the latest adventure from Miami Hick.
This is Miami Hick. I thought I'd do something different and send you a voice message from the cockpit. I'm at flight level 370, currently over India. And I know what you're thinking. What's Miami Hick doing over India? Well, I was supposed to go to Indiana, pick up a couple of Mad Dogs, take down to the shop, but forgot to hit spell check on my Airbus computer. And I ended up over India. So currently flying over India. Hopefully nobody will notice that I made that mistake. But I thought I'd leave you a voice message because I heard a beeping sound kind of like y'all's podcast a while ago. I finally figured out what it is. And I've got an engine out on my Airbus here. So if y'all bear with me, I need to call air control and see if I can get this figured out. So India Air Control, this is Miami Hick. Can you hear me?
Thank you for calling India Air Control. My name is Bob. Can you please hold?
Man, you gotta hate it when air traffic control puts you on hold. All right. India Air Control, Bob, I think you said your name was. Yeah, right. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I got an engine out here. I needed to declare an emergency, get this thing figured out.
Have you tried to reboot the computer? Please check the back of the computer and make sure all the cords are plugged in tightly. What is your username?
India Air Control, my username, it's going to be kind of embarrassing to give out over the radio, but I guess if you need it. Yeah, India Air Control, my username is Chocolate Thunder. Over.
Unplug your computer and that should fix it.
Okay, unplug the computer. Yep, it rebooted. All right, engine's good to go. Thank you, India Air Control. All right. Sorry about that APG crew, but I thought y'all might want to sit in and listen in for my Miami Hick's little adventure over in India. So till I see you again, this is Chocolate Thunder. Miami Hick, over and out.
Thank you, Miami Hick, for that little bit of a international adventure.
Mm-hmm. You know, India, Indiana. I can see where you went.
Very
there.
similar. Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, okay. Carrying those Mad Dogs somewhere. Yeah.
I didn't know Hick flew an Airbus. Is he just
Yeah,
converted
man.
The
onto an
A380.
Airbus now?
Yeah.
Like the A380 cargo version.
Yeah.
All right, okay,
They've got
that's
those-
cool.
That's how he
Those,
gets the Mad Dogs.
Mad Dogs inside
into the
there.
plane.
Oh, okay, must be, yeah. Excellent.
Let's see here. Where were we? Why flying is so expensive. I did not look at this YouTube video, but we do have a link to it. And Nick, you put this in the news folder. I mean the feedback folder. So
Yeah,
why
I
don't you
had looked at this a couple of times. It's a really nice, clear explanation of where your money goes when you buy a ticket. And most people assume it goes towards fuel, but actually, no, that's it. Only a relatively small proportion goes there. But it's a very nice way. It's not hugely accurate because, of course, costs change. Airline have different costs. They put different facilities on, all this kind of thing. So, but it gives you a general idea of where your money goes. And also, surprisingly, little of it goes into our pockets, apparently, Jeff. But some of it does, which is
we need
rather
to
nice.
change that, apparently.
Yeah, I think we do, actually. I think we need to have a new surcharge on airline tickets for captains' retirement funds. That would be nice.
Or even before retirement. Retirement preparation fund.
Yeah. So we can move into retirement in the manner to which we are going to become accustomed.
Yes. But
it is a really nice and clearly laid out explanation, and it's well worth watching.
Okay, we'll put that link there in the show notes for you to watch it and be educated.
And I thought I had seen a similar article recently, but now I can't find it. I was just searching for it, but it kind of had a breakdown of everything that went into a flight, and it was.
I guess it depends on the price of fuel at the time.
Well, it's that, and then it goes into where do your costs go. So what are you paying for? Whose labor is involved, whose time is involved, everyone that's involved in getting a flight off safely and on time.
Yeah,
yeah.
So there's a lot.
Sounds very similar. Yeah, how much you spend on food, aircraft costs, leasing costs, air traffic costs, navigation fees, all this kind of stuff.
And I kind of recall seeing it broken down in kind of a chart that, and it showed how how it applied to the cost of your ticket for each thing that you added on.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, so maybe it's the same thing in the. I haven't watched the video, but it sounds like the exact same thing. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should talk about climate change.
Are we going green?
Oh, we should be going green. I should have known better.
Sorry.
No. I mean, I'm just not paying attention, apparently. Okay. So we'll do
this again. Squeak coming from Taco or your
no,
finger
it's coming from
cord? Okay. Because every time Jeff runs his finger over that thing, it squeaks.
Over what thing?
Over your touchpad.
Oh, no, it's not me. Come on, Taco.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Taco.
Okay. So, hey, let's talk about climate change.
We're going green. We're going green. We're gonna take care of the earth. We're going green.
Taco can't hear the music, so he just has to pretend.
He's going, why are these humans grabbing my paws and making me dance against my will? Turbulence on transatlantic flights will be stronger and more frequent with climate change, leading to an increased flight delays, etc. And I think that there is climate change going on, but I'm not sure exactly. We're not going to get into what we think is causing it, but I don't know. I didn't look at this article. Did you read it?
I did a while back.
Yeah,
I haven't looked at it recently. But
I looked at it as well. I mean, it really comes down to the fact that if you're going to raise the overall temperature of the atmosphere by a degree or two, I mean, that doesn't seem very much, but the amount of additional energy it's going to put into the atmosphere is actually quite phenomenal, which is going to result, and we're already seeing the results of this in a lot of areas. Thunderstorms are going to become larger and more vigorous. upper air winds, which are reliant on temperature changes as opposed to pressure changes that drive the winds at lower levels, they're going to become stronger, which is going to result in more turbulence. We know that the number of twisters you're getting in the States and the severity of them is on the rise. We know the number of hurricanes and typhoons that are occurring around the world is on the increase. And we are seeing a much greater rainfall coming out of larger and more vigorous weather fronts, causing a lot more floods and things. So it just makes sense that in the upper atmosphere, or in the atmosphere which is our home when we're flying, it's going to become more hazardous. So we're going to have to spend more time going round weather. We're going to have to keep things at very much arm's length rather than perhaps avoiding a thunderstorm by 20 miles. We're going to have to make it 40 miles in the future. Lightning strikes are going to become more violent. And it's just, goes hand in hand with climate change and that increase in energy that's occurring in the atmosphere.
That's what I think about that.
Yeah.
That's a
I
different
think
type
it's a
of
ball.
climate
I think it's
change.
all hogwash,
more,
actually, myself. But okay, whatever.
Well, you're not going to live long enough to find out, Jeff. But
you're right. You're right.
Our kids might.
Yeah, just leave it all for me.
Yeah,
and Rick.
exactly. Poor Steph.
You're
deal
not
with
that
it.
much younger than we are.
No
Maybe
comment.
she is. No comment, she says. Okay, well, let's move on gracefully to Joe Skena. He sent us an article about a pilot being punched by a passenger. This is an EasyJet flight, and she was arrested. It was flight 1973. Now, this is some time ago. 25-year-old woman was arrested at Manchester Airport before the departure of the EasyJet flight to Cyprus on Wednesday. It is understood that the woman attacked the captain of the plane after she was being led away. Apparently, she was misbehaving.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, and
She punched him in the face.
Yeah, I've seen that happen actually. There was an incident, and it was a passenger that was that should not have been on the flight. It was like I don't know what his exact problem was, but he was not a normal passenger, and he suffered from some kind of
It wasn't just substance
disorder
use, or it was more psychological problems.
Yeah, and it was a very full flight, and he was sitting in the middle seat, and he was not happy about being on the airplane, and passengers were complaining about his behavior, and the captain went back to check out the situation, and that guy punched him in the face, and I'm thinking, probably not a good thing to do. Yeah. And so the captain said, I think maybe you should go on to the next flight, which has fewer passengers, and you have a little bit more room. So that was the situation. And yeah, so in this case, it sounds like just bad behavior by this young lady. Bad boys, bad girls.
Bad girls.
Yeah.
Very much so. And I noticed in another article that the woman was arrested on suspicion of assault. What doesn't sound like
suspicion.
We think that you may have assaulted the captain by punching him in the face. We're not sure.
Exactly. And officers also discovered she was wanted for drug offenses. The woman is now being questioned in police custody.
Ha. That's odd. Okay.
What's odd?
That she was suspected of being whatever.
By the way, I hate to mention this, but there was a little bit of pops and clicks coming from.
I know. I hear it from my mic, but not hers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear it from yours.
But why is that?
I don't
know. I'm
you're
not getting it from
You're the one with all the technology stuff here.
We're connected to the same darn.
Is it Taco? Is Taco popping and clicking?
No.
No, I don't know what the deal is, because
how do you pronounce that word?
It's stopped now.
Taco.
Or
taco.
I like
Taco. Taco. Chicka taka taka.
Maybe I just have the gain up too high, so I'll reduce that and bring this level up.
And
Hello.
That's better.
Is it okay? You can still hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I think I just had the level too high. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll let you know.
Okay. No, it's still making the weird sound though, isn't it?
I don't hear it as much.
Okay. I don't know what the deal is. It's me though, whatever it is. Okay. Thank you, Joe. Last remaining World War I aircraft carrier has been restored. This is from Daniel again, and he sent a link to this from express.co.uk. I did not look at this. Did you?
No.
No.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
What you talk about?
Okay, well, it's the last remaining World War One aircraft carrier, lovingly restored. I bet not many of us realize they had aircraft carriers in World War One. This is the only surviving example of the world's first aircraft carrier. It's a predecessor to today's giant Royal Naval vessels. It was found rotting in the River Thames by a maritime enthusiast who instantly recognized its significance. The 1918 Thornycraft seaplane lighter, measuring just 58 feet, could carry one whole plane, a long chalk from the Navy's new 920-foot carrier, Queen Elizabeth, which is, I say this, a long way from the United States carriers, which are probably about twice as big. Anyway, this rudimentary vessel was used to launch First World War biplanes at sea, so they could intercept German airships before they reached Britain. A Sopwith camel would be strapped to the deck of the craft before it was towed into wind at more than 20 knots. The crew had to hold the plane back while the pilot got the engine up to speed, then released the chocks at the right moment. The pilot had a 58-foot runway to get the plane airborne, or he then plummeted into the sea. After completing the raid, the pilot then had to ditch the plane into the sea and await rescue. I see.
Seems like a waste of a plane.
It does rather, doesn't it? But perhaps they were cheap and cheerful in those days. The craft were the brainchild of the British Admiralty in response to the destruction caused by bombs dropped on Britain by German Zeppelins. And it goes on to describe the work they've done to bring this lovely vessel back to decent order. And I have to say, it looks rather gorgeous.
Oh my goodness. Go back to that picture. That's insane.
That picture you got.
They could launch the plane off of that boat.
Yeah, it's not very big, is it?
They have to be going at, what, 20 knots?
I'm impressed they could be going 20 knots.
In that boat, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they were being towed presumably by a
that's
much larger warship, and they could do a reasonable speed, those big old warships, yeah. And I guess those Zeppelins were such a nightmare. I guess it was not a bad idea to try and do something to stop them.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, you guys have to go and take a look at that picture because it looks the way the picture looks, and it's probably some of the perspective of the camera, but it kind of looks like this little dinghy with a biplane strapped on the top of it and like a ski ramp, but not even, and there's a bunch of people standing around looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Wearing full naval uniform, looking very smart.
Yes.
In like very rough looking seas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really good show, chap.
Yes. Tim writes, Tim Yancey here, a private pilot flying out of the Chino Airport. Hey, we talked about
timing.
the Chino Airport earlier in Southern California, and frequent Acme Airlines passenger. I've been listening to the podcast for about a year and enjoy it very much. Thanks to the entire crew for putting in the effort each week. We and the APG community really appreciate it. I've been following the build up to the Farnborough trip for months and alas, will not be able to join you in July. It's the same week as Oshkosh. So one has to prioritize aviation mega events. However, I was recently in the UK and was able to get a tour of the Farnborough Airport from a friend that lives in the area. The tents and the exhibit facilities are all going up, so preparations are well underway. So perhaps I'm the first North American-based APGer to arrive for this summer's event. And yes, I did have the requisite pub lunch and a very nice bitter beer. I guess maybe Tim Yancey was the first one. And Tim, you need to kind of let us know how your reconnaissance was. Maybe this place that you had the...
Right. Where did you have lunch?
Yeah. Maybe that's a good place for all of us to go. Thanks again for the great podcast each week, and have a great time in Farnborough. I'd love to have a meetup in Southern California sometime, but alas, I know that Acme does not fly the Mad Dog fleet out west anymore, but perhaps that old pilot can join us sometime. Cheers, Tim Yancey. I wrote him back and said, I have some business out there that I have to attend to in the next few months, so maybe we can do a
Maybe it will happen.
SoCal meetup out there.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And he has a picture of himself in front of the Farnborough Airport building or terminal or something there.
Very cool.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim, for sending in that. This is interesting. Did you know that I didn't realize that Arthur Fiedler, the conductor of the Boston Pops, was also a colonel in the Air Force and was an ace?
I did not know that.
Neither did I.
Actually, that's not true at all. This is actually a different Arthur Fiedler.
Just the same name.
Fiedler.
Okay, got it.
Hi, Captain Jeff. Just wanted to mention the passing of a fellow pilot and a good fellow, Colonel Arthur Fiedler. In the brief time that I got to know him, I found him to be a truly humble and kind soul. I added a link to his interview for the Veterans History Project at the bottom. He will be missed. Yeah, and here's a little bit of his obituary. Arthur C. Fiedler, 92. He lived a long life. Passed away May 11th, 2016. One of the greatest generation and a true American hero. Art was born August 1st, 1923 in Forest Park, Illinois. Among his early accomplishments, he became a violin concert master. Oh, so he had a little bit of musical talent as well.
I saw that. Then that's why I was thinking that it was the same person.
I did too. When I was reading this, I'm thinking, oh, is it the same guy?
Person, yeah.
So I looked up the other Arthur Fiedler in Wikipedia, and no, it's not the same guy. No.
Just coincidence.
It would have been a really cool story if it was, but he was probably on his way to be a musician when World War II interrupted and placed him on the path of a military career. Art qualified for flight school with the United States Army Air Corps, and after completing training, he graduated as a second lieutenant. He then married his high school sweetheart, Helen Lawson. Immediately after, Art was deployed to the European theater, assigned to the 15th Air Force 325 Fighter Group, the Checkertail Clan, and the 317 Fighter Squadron stationed in Lassina, Italy. He transitioned to P-51s, naming his assigned Mustang Helen. Over the course of 2 years and 60-plus missions, Art accumulated 8 confirmed victories and 1 probable, earning him the prestigious Fighter Ace designation. So we'll put this information in the show notes for you to read as well. But he included a link to YouTube where the Veterans History Project interviewed him. And I thought it was worth listening to this story. And I think it was a very amusing and entertaining story. He talks about one of his kills. And where did it go? It's not there. Darn it.
Do you have a different
what happened
window
to
open?
It?
You had a whole bunch of windows. Go down. Oh.
Is it another window there?
Yeah, right underneath Evernote.
Okay.
No.
There?
Nope.
Oh, wait. Let me go to this window. Oh, there's only one window there.
Right a bit.
Just kidding.
Okay. A little bit to the left. Yeah.
Right
okay.
there.
Okay. Right there.
Now scritch.
We've got so many windows open.
Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to, edit this audio, obviously. And I'm going to go over here to Firefox and play. And I think I'm going to try to remember exactly where to start this. I think it was like 2:18 or something like that. but it'll be all nicely edited.
Engage fighters, were you
15 minutes ahead of time? Let me, as I said, the 13th of,
Okay, let me advance a little bit.
on the 24th of June, I got the probable. 4 days later, we had a fighter sweep to Ploesti. Now, Ploesti was a hotbed because this was the major source of natural oil that the Axis had. And so they always sent up 200 airplanes or whatever they had left. And at the end, they didn't have that many left. But this is on the 28th of June. Our 3 squadrons are on a fighter sweep. My squadron is at 24,000 feet, just below an overcast. The other 2 squadrons are up at 30,000 feet above the overcast. I have to guesstimate that about 20 miles to the west of Ploesti, the radio suddenly blared forth, Boku 109s, 30 Angels, which means, hey, there's a lot of 109s up here at 30,000 feet. Well, the squadron commander said, drop tanks, and immediately went balls to the wall. Now, balls to the wall, our prop and throttles had little rubber balls about an inch in diameter, and we would grab the rubber balls, and full forward was the firewall. So balls to the wall meant full power. Well, everybody started climbing up, but my left drop tank hung up. And I didn't want to be getting into combat with a hung up, half-used drop tank. So I did everything I could to get rid of that tank. And finally, I ended up having to jerk my stick back and fire my guns at the same time. The tank came off, but now my squadron had disappeared into the overcast. So I now go balls to the wall, and I start up after them. I was amazed to find out this wasn't a solid overcast. It was a layered overcast, a layer of clouds, a layer of clear, a layer of cloud. Well, every time I came to the clear, I'd quick left and right because I didn't want to run into my squadron. And about 27,000 feet, as I looked to the left, I spotted 2 airplanes. Well, before I could start my climb, I was in the next clear space, but I went down through the clouds, and by the time I came out, I was close enough to these 2 airplanes to see the 2 oil coolers under each wing, and I knew they were 109s. Well, the normal situation is the leader is the best pilot, so I decided I'm going to blow the leader away, and then I'll take on the wingman. Well, as I got about 200 yards away from him, they were flying like this, and all of a sudden the wingman looks like that, and I know that he spotted me and he's trying to decide what I am. Well, I changed my procedure when immediately went over, put my sight in front of him, opened fire on him. And I got to tell you, this guy was really sharp. I had bullets all over his airplane, but the first bullet no sooner hit than he whipped it over like this and started down to the ground, five miles below us. Well, he twisted, he turned, he skidded. He did everything to make sure that I couldn't get a sight on him. And I had no way of knowing where he was going to be in 1 second. So I didn't fire. I just followed him while he's doing all these contortions. And about 13,000 feet, he pulled out, and I was in a great position. And I opened fire on him again. And this time, of course, there were a lot of hits on him again. And instead of flipping over this time, he immediately started burning. and the left wing slowly dropped, and as the left wing dropped, the nose came. And the next thing I know, we're in a vertical dive again. Well, we flew, I didn't tell you this, but our range, we flew like 600 miles from our base, and you could never tell what the height of the ground was. And I didn't want to be at the speed we were hitting. I didn't want to follow him, have him crash into the ground and suddenly realize that I was too low and crash behind him. Victor and Vanquish both dead. So at about 5,000 feet, I pulled off and cocked it up on the wing while I watched him. And sure enough, he crashed down there and big column of smoke came up. Now, I had just had this probable 4 days beforehand. And I think, well, by God, I'm not going to get a probable on this. So I went down, turned my guns off, and took pictures of them to prove that I had a victory. I started to pull up and I started to climb. I couldn't believe it. A 109 came right around in front of me. Obviously, I think he was looking at the guy like I had been. Well, I immediately flipped my guns on, went into a vertical bank, and got behind this guy and opened fire on him. And I don't know, there were hits along the side of his airplane. Maybe 6, 10 hits, something like that. And now I'm having to pull a lot of G's to stay behind him. And all of a sudden my guns quit firing. And that was one of the problems with the C's and the B model too. If you pulled a lot of G's and fired the gun, the way the ammunition came to the guns, it couldn't pull another cartridge into the breech. And so you're sitting there with 4 guns that none of them fire. Well, unfortunately, I don't know, he was now like this, and I pulled up. I was so close to him that I couldn't help getting in formation with him. And we sat there. I'm about 40, 45 feet from him. He's looking at me. I'm looking at him. I didn't remember a thing about that airplane, except I knew the color of his helmet was a rust color, and I knew what his oxygen mask looked like. It was really tunnel vision. Well, I didn't know what to do. Anything I do, dive, climb, he's going to get a chance to shoot at me with his 20 millimeter cannons. And I'm adverse to 20 millimeter cannons hitting my airplane when I'm in it. So I don't know how long we flew there. It seemed forever, but I'm sure that it was probably a minute. And I suddenly decided, well, the only thing I can do is I'm going to take my 45 out and I'm going to start shooting at him. And I'm going to hope that he's not going to let me shoot at him from 40 feet away. And I'm hoping that he's going to turn away and I'm going to turn away in the other direction and head for home as fast as I can. Well, as I started to pull my 45 out, I couldn't believe it. He jettisoned his canopy and he bailed out. When I got home and reported this, some smart person said, "Oh, Svengali, you hypnotized him and he bailed out." But I didn't hypnotize anybody else, so that was a short-term nickname.
So you got credit for a kill and you never fired a shot.
Oh, I'm sorry. When he bailed out, I went down and took a picture of him too, because I wanted to get credit for the two.
Okay, so that is a bulk of this link that we'll put in the show notes. Veterans History Project, Colonel Arthur Fiedler. Oh, thank you. Yeah, we need to turn that off, don't we? Here we go. Hello. We're back.
Hi.
Hello.
Interesting story. It's always fascinating to hear these stories from World War II, vets.
And recalled in such detail. Like that's
Yeah.
I think what I love about these stories.
Guy
it's
was
like,
obviously pretty old.
like it just happened yesterday.
Yeah,
you know?
very sharp. Very sharp. So, if you want to read the rest of his obit and the rest of this interview from the Veterans History Project, and that was Colonel Arthur Fiedler, who just passed away at 92. And thank you, let's see, Ivan, for sending that in.
You know, I'd love to have heard the German side of that story. I don't know if he survived his bailout, but
yeah,
it would have been great to have.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like
these
what
two having a conversation about. And then I saw you pull out your damn pistol, and I thought, well, I'm not going to sit here.
I'm out of here.
So Steph and I were talking about this, going like, well, if I see the guy with pulling out a 45, I'd like dive my pull away and just dive away.
You're still in an airplane. You can get away from.
That's just it's a hard to understand story.
Exactly.
I mean, like you said, you don't know what's going through the other guy's head.
Yeah,
a great story, nevertheless.
Yeah, it's interesting what he was saying about that airplane that he was flying. How if you pull too many G's, it basically locked up the guns.
Yeah.
Not a good design.
No, but thank goodness he had
What
his.
was the aircraft? A Mustang, was it?
No, I think I'm not sure what I think he did fly the P-51 Mustangs, but I don't think he was in a P-51 in this encounter. I don't see what it was, but there's in that picture there. That was definitely not a P-51. Not sure what kind of airplane it was.
So it said he was flying P-51s in the obit. But
yeah, but in that
I know
in that picture, that was definitely not a P-51.
Was that actually the plane he was flying, though?
I don't know. I mean, that's where
Mike
they got
in the chat room saying it was a P-51C.
Oh, there you go.
For Charlie.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. I didn't know that the P-51s had that weakness. Steve writes, "What happened to all the muffs?"
The what?
Well, so I'm thinking
muffs.
I think it has something to do with today's society and culture, and the hygiene and shaving and like that.
Do you guys have the same slang for muff that we do?
I think so. Actually.
Oh, wait a minute. Now I'm looking at a little bit more of the detail of his feedback, and I'm sorry, I was going the wrong direction there. My bad. I guess he's talking about something to do with those foam covers that you put on your microphone.
Yeah, I'd make a horrible racket if I try to take it off.
Yeah,
but,
see, Steph's going to take her muff. she's gonna pull her muff out.
This conversation has gone horribly wrong.
Oh, that's what she said. Fly.
I mean, you can't even play it.
Okay, so
but this is what we're referring to.
Yes, these like a foam screen that you put over your microphone.
Yeah,
so,
that catches all the germs of the previous pilot.
Yeah, that's true. That's the downside of that.
It becomes a breeding place.
Your own, though.
Yeah, if you have your own, then it's not a problem, right? So, flying across the country recently, I've noticed a growing trend of radio calls that are almost unreadable due to popping and hissing and other distorting sounds of the pilot's mics missing their muffs. How has this become a thing? Do these people not know what they sound like? The P's, the T's, the F's all lead to serious noise issues, and that's called what is it called? Plosives. Plosives. That's the audio term. When you're making a P sound. Here, I'm going to take the muff off. I don't usually call this a muff. I call it a windscreen or whatever. Okay, so if I get close here and I start popping my P's, you can hear that sound. And this is what he's talking about. People talking about, and it drives me nuts because.
So what is the thing that Nick always said? Peter Piper picked a peck.
Yeah, Peter Piper picked a pepper. This is the way the guys sound. And you're going like.
Hello? Well, it doesn't help that they start off with.
Yeah.
Stereotypical.
So the reason why we have these windscreens or muffs or whatever you want to call them on our microphones is to prevent that kind of awful sound. So Steve continues. Had a first officer a few weeks ago flying sans muff without a muff, and I pointed this out to him, and he had no clue. Later in the trip, I noticed he had wrapped toilet paper around his mic to create a nice windscreen. Bravo! You learned quickly. Maybe we should start a, quote, bring back the muff campaign.
No sea too rough, no muff too tough.
Personally, I don't want to bring... Oh, never mind.
I'm staying out of this one altogether. Just
I think I'm going to have the same attitude towards this, Jeff, as you had towards climate changes due to increase in temperature in the atmosphere.
Yes, the atmosphere is getting kind of warm in here.
Well, maybe we can phrase this all differently. Just, it's all about communication and clarity and understanding and being understood. So think about that when you speak.
Yeah, and I think it's really, honestly, people that are using the microphone. So, for instance, we were talking about this earlier. On the airplane that I fly, we have David Clark headsets. Well, guess what? They come with a nice little foam thing that goes over the mic. But guess what? They're gone.
Well, they get destroyed. They get someone sneezes or coughs all over it. And
so there's like a bare microphone there.
Yeah.
And with nothing covering it, and then you just hear nothing but, like it's just hard to understand people.
Garbled.
And I think that maybe it's because we're podcasters and we're thinking about the way we're sounding, and the clarity of what we're saying, etc. Maybe we're more sensitive to it than most people. But I really want to tell people, just do something. Move the thing away from your mouth, so you're not making.
Sounds like toilet paper works great.
Toilet paper apparently works. Steve, your first officer might be onto something.
It's an inexpensive workaround. There you go.
Yeah, or he might be on something. I don't know.
Too.
Yeah. I think, this would be a good time for us to do our episode, our recent or most
latest installment.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Of Plane Tales.
The Old Pilot's Plane Tales. An Avon over the Thames. A number of bridges span the Thames in central London, but none are more impressive or famous as Tower Bridge. Designed by Sir Joseph Bazalgette, its two imposing towers, spaced 200 feet apart, support a pair of spans with only 140 feet between them, the lower of which carries traffic. An iconic site in the city, it sits beside the Tower of London and joins the City of London to the South Bank and Southwark. It was 1968, and morale in the Royal Air Force was low. While Harold Wilson, the Prime Minister, drank beer and ate sandwiches with his trade union chums, he also made sweeping cuts to defense spending, resulting in many cancellations. TSR-2, the fabulous new supersonic low-level terrain-following nuclear bomber, had not just been cancelled. The factories had been ordered to destroy the plans and smash the rigs. The F-111, ordered as a replacement, was then also cancelled at cost. Blames and criticism flowed freely between senior officers, the Ministry of Defence and the government. Feelings of uncertainty and division were felt throughout the service in this, the 50th year since the formation of the newest branch of the armed services. Celebrations marking the RAF's 50th anniversary had been cancelled to save costs, and feelings within the service ran high, no more so than within the heart of Flight Lieutenant Alan Pollock. To put it concisely, he was pissed off. Pollock was an experienced and respected officer. He had seen active service in the Middle East, served as an aide-de-camp to a NATO air commander, and had flown as part of the Yellow Jacks, the RAF's premier display team, which was soon to be renamed the Red Arrows. He was a fighter leader, an instructor, and held the rare exceptional rating as a fast jet pilot. He was currently a flight commander flying Hunter Mark 9s on No. 1 Fighter Squadron, the world's oldest military air squadron, based at RAF West Raynham. Born on April Fool's Day in 1916, the service was rightly proud of its short but splendid heritage. It was generally assumed that, on this historic anniversary, some form of flypass would provide the highlight to a day of special events. The news that no celebrations would occur was met with anger and disappointment. Pollock badgered for permission to do a formal flypast, but could only get clearance for a leaflet raid on other units. Such hijinks were fairly common even when I served, and involved packing cards into an aircraft's various nooks and crannies to be dropped over other airfields in friendly rivalry at Christmas and other such times. After the morning parade, a number of aircraft were prepped with specially printed anniversary cards stuffed into the flaps and a good supply of government-issued toilet rolls crammed into the air brakes. Low-level beat-ups and paper bombing attacks were made over RAF Chivner and Coltishall, who responded over the phone with congratulatory calls. The ex-Vietnam F-105 USAF exchange pilot took out RAF Valley, but Watersham saw red when clouds of shredded paper showered down onto their airfield as they were expecting the Air Officer Commanding's inspection the very next day. The only retaliation came from a pair of lightnings from Watersham, who returned the compliment, even if rather inaccurately, over the wing dispersal. Pollock's disappointment remained, and he railed at the apparent disregard for the service. However, RAF Tangmere, a base with great significance, having been at the heart of the Battle of Britain, had laid on an excellent do for April the 4th. The unit had asked No. 1 Squadron to return to its pre-war home after first giving the city of Chichester a flypast during their Freedom of the City parade. Pollock whipped in the hunters, ensuring their accurate station keeping, before filling in as the No. 4 man at the rear of the box formation. En route, the formation performed over Brighton's air display and arrived accurate to the second over Chichester before giving Arundel Castle an impromptu beat-up on the way to Tangmere. As they taxied in, they removed their bone domes and wore boaters, a traditional part of the show. That evening, Pollock delighted in the hospitality of the mess, which held a cocktail party and dance. The Duke of Norfolk and various high-ranking officers who attended all suffered a finger-poking from Pollock about the appalling state of the nation. Trying to get to sleep that night, Pollock remembered a fabulous solo flypast he had seen as a boy when a lone Spitfire flew in celebration over London, across London Bridge, Downing Street and the Ministry of Defence, and he began to plan. The next morning he sketched out a route with timing marks onto a map and tucked it into his pocket. The weather was lovely as the Avpin starter on his Hunter hissed, bringing the Rolls-Royce Avon to life. Still part of a formation, Pollock taxied onto the runway, carefully doing his checks, and opened up the throttle. As he climbed away, he looked back to see his squadron commander beating up the airfield, and with no eyes on him, he slipped away from the formation and dropped to low level. En route to the initial point for his run over London, he was going to pass close to Dunsfold, the home of hawkers who built the very aircraft that Pollock was flying. He adjusted his course and streaked overhead. His starting point arrived under his nose, the large reservoirs just to the south of Heathrow Airport, and he banked right whilst watching a stately 707 make its approach. Crossing Richmond Park, he picked up the sinuous Silver River Thames, and with bursts of power and judicious use of combat flap, he followed its winding path. Bridges flashed underneath him as he swept round over Wandsworth, Battersea and Chelsea. Crossing Vauxhall Bridge, he saw his destination, the familiar and splendid Houses of Parliament. Banking hard and with full power, he started to circle Whitehall and the historic seat of the British government. With his Avon bellowing a mighty roar, he imagined how this would wake up the MPs and other august figures sitting chair-bound beneath him, hoping this might slow the dead hand of government and the sickening cutbacks that threatened the Air Force. Within the Commons chamber, the message was certainly received. Debates were interrupted as Pollock's lords and masters gazed upwards towards the ornate ceilings wondering what the devil was going on. He circled Parliament 3 times, and as Big Ben struck 12 noon, he straightened up to head for home. Dipping his wings to the RAF monument, he skimmed over Waterloo Bridge, the wonderful silhouette of St. Paul's Cathedral passing by as he concentrated on keeping low over the winding river when it suddenly appeared. The matronly structure of Tower Bridge, there in his path. His mind whirred, but to a trained pilot familiar with low flying, this wasn't a difficult choice. He hastily jinked to line himself up. He only had seconds, and he slipped even lower over the water. There was considerable traffic on the bridge, amongst which was a bright red double-decker bus. With less than a mile to go, he gauged he could still fit through the small gap between the 2 spans and miss the bus. The steel girders seemed to explode about his cockpit, totally engulfing the canopy as he thundered through. For a heartbeat, he thought he had overcooked it and left his fin attached to one of Bazalgette's most famous structures, but then he was safely through. Giving himself a new call sign, RAF 01, something that was rather lost on the air traffic controllers, Pollock got permission to beat up RAF Wattisham before winding up his hunter to Mach .92 and dropping a mini boom by popping his dive brakes as he passed over the American F-100s at Lakenheath. With very little fuel left, he completed his little soiree with an inverted pass over his own squadron's hangars at West Raynham, breaking down wind, punching the gear down, and landing. As his brake chute bobbed around behind his now very famous jet, Flight Lieutenant Pollock felt satisfied. He quietly walked from the aircraft as the engine slowly ticked and tinkled to a halt, and wandered into ops to call his wife. He had some trouble getting a line as the apologetic operator explained that there were 2 lightning priority calls, and she was a bit busy. Back at the squadron, Pollock found his boss, OC Flying, and the station commander waiting, and he quietly confirmed what they had just found out. His boss was quite relieved that Whitehall wasn't littered with leaflets and toilet rolls. Finally, Pollock suggested that perhaps he ought to be placed under arrest. The press had a field day. "What's the matter with the youth today? In my day, we used to fly whole squadrons of aeroplanes through bridges. At Rouen, all of No. 1 Squadron Hurricanes flew under the transporter bridge, one behind the other. G. Plinston, squadron leader, retired." "We do not regard this as a joke. It could have had serious consequences. There were pedestrians and vehicles on the bridge." Spokesman, Metropolitan Police. "Suddenly there was the most thunderous roar. I looked up, and whoomph, a big silver jet roared by. I didn't get to see any of its markings." George Tapper, Tower Bridge watchman. "It was a bloody silly thing to do." Spokesman, Port of London Authority. "Please don't condemn or punish the daredevil pilot who swept across London. It did me and a lot of other people the world of good. I shall always remember the feeling of pride as I thought of that chap in control of so much power, and it revived memories of those wonderful fellows who during the war fought for our survival. K. Kakulum, Miss Daily Express." A Daily Mail reporter wrote, 6 MPs last night put down a Commons motion on behalf of the Tower Bridge pilot, but later it was withdrawn. The MPs were advised the case against Flight Lieutenant Alan Pollock was still sub judice. 4 of the MPs previously served in the Royal Air Force. Flight International commented, "The RAF and civil authorities were tussling last week about whether Flight Lieutenant Pollock should be court-martialed or tried in a civil court. His one-man flypast was construed in and outside the RAF as an expression of resentment felt by many in the service, including those now responsible for deciding his punishment. of the way the Royal Air Force is being treated by the government. It may be that the last straw was the cancellation of the 50th anniversary flypast over the capital on April 1. Pollock's squadron was soon deployed to North Africa, whilst he remained under close arrest. Getting a bit tired and bored, he soon managed to lock up his escort in his room and climbed out onto the roof of the mess for some fresh air. As a result, he was transferred to the RAF hospital at Rawton. Keen to have his day in court where he might voice his discontent, Pollock was upset to discover that, despite being told he was fit to stand trial, he was to be invalided out of the service. For a while, he considered appealing the decision, but after some friendly counsel, he realized that he had to accept Hobson's choice and that the government would surely take steps to avoid any public inquiry. Within a few years, Pollock found an ideal way to channel his aggressive fighter training and had a successful career in export.
Wow. You are such a talented person, Captain Nick.
So many different character voices.
I was just having a bit of fun.
Yeah,
it was great.
You really need to do audiobooks.
A whole bunch of my mates came over and did that. It wasn't me at all.
Sure. Now do the woman again.
No, I couldn't possibly do the woman again.
No, that was a great story.
I love that story. Yeah, it was quite well known in the Air Force because I joined the Air Force in that was 1968. I joined in 74, so it wasn't long before I joined, and it was the only jet aircraft that has flown through Tower Bridge, and it's if you can picture the bridge, these two huge columns, ornate columns, and then these two pathways. The upper one is just a stress one. The lower one carries the traffic. So there's a letterbox, and it's the perfect thing to fly an airplane through. So it was quite his act was quite famous. But I didn't know a lot of the background until I read his own account for it, which was great reading. He was obviously an interesting bloke.
The thing I did not understand is at the very end you said that he obviously did something in his life other than flying, and something about an adventurous life of an exporter.
Well, and that was from his own. That was from his own words. I suspect the tooth and nail job of export was obviously something that appealed to him. But I must admit, I thought, yeah, if he'd said he was a lion tamer in a circus, I'd have gone along with that. But no. I was almost quoting directly from his own account.
I was thinking, what exactly could be as exciting as what you just talked about? Flying an airplane inverted and through the Tower Bridge, and
well, I guess it was the equivalent of perhaps being in the stock exchange. The Wolf of Wall Street, being an exporter.
Yeah.
Okay,
if you say so.
But no, he was an interesting character. He was actually very well qualified and very well thought of. I mean, to get an exceptional rating.
Obviously, a very talented pilot.
Yeah, but perhaps he stretched. And the interesting thing was the government just didn't want to have anything to do with it. They didn't want to prosecute him. They didn't want to. They just wanted to get rid of him. So. Just forget the whole subject. So how they managed to arrange to have him medically discharged, I really don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess if they want you out of there, they'll come
find
up
a
with
way.
Something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Tim writes, Tim Van Ram. Have you heard of this guy? He's
Who?
in Northern California.
Yes.
That rings a bell.
Great guy. Brother of the venerable Mark Van Ram on the East Coast. They cover it all. He says, sorry for sending more interesting stuff your way. Oh, well.
You don't have to apologize for that. That's what we're here for.
Self-promoting right there.
Yeah.
I know you have too much already, and it isn't the Tim, the Too Much Feedback Guy show. Let's see. So he sent us the information about this story about Tracy Curtis Taylor. And she is flying the old U.S. postal airmail route in the United States in a Stearman, a Boeing Stearman. Sorry, Nick. And
No wonder it crashed.
Well,
Yep.
yeah, I was going to say, if you did a recent search for this whole this adventure that Tracy Curtis Taylor was on, aviatrix, adventurer, and inspirational speaker, I guess she was. Well, Steph, you have the information right there on your phone. What happened?
Basically, she was out to fly the classic airmail routes from Seattle to Boston. And like you said, it's a 1942 Boeing Stearman aircraft. Basically, she ended up crashing in Arizona, I think it was, between Winslow and Phoenix. I guess she lost engine power and kind of just had a forced landing in the middle of the desert there. Fortunately, I think she was okay, but the plane suffered some significant damage. I think that's the majority of what's in this article.
Yeah.
So.
There are some pictures in the article, and it's pretty sad looking.
Yeah, I mean it's such a pretty plane and all the other.
I think that the intent is to repair the thing back to flying condition and resume this this adventure that she's on to retrace the U.S. airmail routes.
Yeah, and I think she was having it. Where was she having it sent to have it repaired? Somewhere.
Probably Boeing.
Yeah.
I don't know. They probably don't deal with that kind of thing anymore.
I don't know.
I think she had the aircraft originally restored in the UK by a special company, and she wants it to go back there to be.
I think that's I think
she's
that's
from
right.
the UK, isn't she? Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing of slight controversy I found out really into that a little bit was that she has a inverted commas co-pilot, a very well qualified pilot that also flies with her, and I assumed when I first read it that she did all this solo, but not so apparently. But there you go.
Yeah. No, I think she had a co-pilot with her, just like Amelia Earhart, Rose Earhart, the in the PC Pilatus 12. She had another
around the world. She had another pilot with her.
Yeah, which that doesn't take anything away from it. I don't believe.
No. But I just think Steph wouldn't need a co-pilot.
No, Steph would say, "Get out of my way."
Forget about that.
Yeah. Get out of my
Take this on
airplane.
myself.
I'm doing this.
No.
Maybe you should do something like that.
I think she should.
Yeah, but I don't know that I would. I think it makes a lot of sense to have someone with you, to be honest.
Yeah. So,
I mean,
since when are we worried about making a lot of sense?
Safety, good decision making, things that I would like to be remembered
that's
for.
not what we do at the APG.
Well, I think
Rash,
in that case
impulsive.
you ought to go off as a pair, and if have some bloke on your wing, and then so that if you do disappear in the desert,
No, that's a good idea.
We should
actually.
do
That's
something.
interesting. We could.
The airline pilot guy,
Cross
something.
country.
Yeah,
you could.
We'll figure out some sort of route to.
You've got to fly somewhere to fly to. Go and fly around Antarctica or something.
Let's retrace the. I don't know. We'll have to think about that.
Antarctica.
No, that sounds too cold.
That sounds frigid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's stay in the tropics.
How about island hopping? That sounds more interesting.
That's definitely her speed, for sure.
Excellent.
Hey, we talked about the story about the MU2, Mitsubishi MU2 crash on the Magdalene Islands. I tried to pronounce the French version of it, the
Ile de la Madeleine.
Yeah,
I'm not saying the Madeleine part.
we got this from an anonymous pilot who listens to the show, and it says, "I am a Canadian MU2 pilot. I'm writing to add to the discussion from episode 217 regarding the MU2 crash in Quebec. The
Ile de la Madeleine
is the Magdalene Islands in English, if that makes pronunciation easier. Yes, it does. Thank you very much, Mr. Anonymous or Mrs. Anonymous. So the flight in question was a bit of a regulatory oddball. The aircraft was registered in the U.S., but the crew were Canadian, as were all the passengers. This leads to some confusion as to whose rules apply. In any case, this cannot be considered a charter, since American charter companies are not permitted to operate point-to-point in Canada, something called cabotage. and a Canadian charter company cannot operate an American registered airplane. So the flight must have been originated or operated in a not for hire situation. Friends helping friends, etc. In the US, this kind of flying falls under Part 91 of the FARs. Canada has similar rules with a few more restrictions. Specifically, one cannot operate a pressurized turbine-powered airplane in Canada, unless it is operated under a commercial air operator certificate, kind of like Part 135, or what used to be known as a private operator certificate, now called a private operator registration document, because regulators like to make things more complicated. But in any case, this requires a great deal of overhead, including the same kind of management structure, operations manual, and regulatory oversight that a commercial operator would get. So, to make a long story short, the only way that the flight could have been legally operated under FAR part, or was under FAR part 191. 91, thank you. I tried to agree with your assessment that the weather was such. Oh no, I'm sorry.
See, it's because your font is so tiny.
Let me increase the font size here. So
not just me. And my vision is fine.
Okay.
I tend to agree. Oh, go back down.
Where'd it go?
Go down. There
okay. Why don't you take over for me?
He says, I tend to agree with your assessment that the weather was such that this flight never should have happened. The rumor was that that the family was originally booked on a scheduled flight, which was canceled due to the bad weather. This led them to seek alternative mode of transportation to the Magdalene Islands. So he says, here is my speculation as to the cause. I also agree that this was most likely a CFIT accident. My working theory is based on the extremely low altimeter setting in use that day, 28.83 millimeters of mercury. That's pretty low.
Yeah.
2883. If the pilot accidentally entered a higher altimeter setting during the transition, the indicated altitude would have been higher than their actual altitude. If, for example, they had used 2983 instead of 2883, an easy mistake to make, transitioning from 2992 in the flight levels, their indicated altitude would have been 1,000 higher than actual. The airport only has non-precision approaches available, so there was no glide slope to follow, and the aircraft would have had to step down progressively lower altitudes as they got closer to the airport. I think they probably would have figured out that they were too high, too close on the approach, and increased their rate of descent to try to get down to their minimum altitude. Except that when their altimeter would not read that minimum descent altitude, they would actually be 500 below ground level. So with low ceilings, they likely did not have enough time to recognize the situation and correct for it, especially if they had been descending extra quick to correct for what they thought was being too high on approach. The crash site was about 3 miles short of the runway, or about where you should be 1,000 feet AGL on a 3-degree glide slope. All of the above is speculation based on the very little information available about the specifics of the flight, but derived from a fair amount of experience. From what I understand, the pilots had very little experience in this aircraft, which will likely be a contributing factor. The aircraft was equipped with a radio altimeter and apparently also a terrain awareness warning system, both of which should have prevented what I described above if used properly. But I do not know if this equipment was actually installed, functioning, set properly, or monitored. Arguably, since this accident happened, the answer to at least some of those questions is no. Some of the media quickly locked onto the accident history of the MU-2, which certain experts will always find a way to mention. What they fail to mention is that in the 8 years since the FAA has mandated specific training for all MU-2 pilots in the United States, it has had the best safety record in its class. To put that another way, in one of the last years before the training became mandatory, there were 6 MU-2 accidents in a single year. In the 8 years since the training became mandatory, there have been 3 accidents total. So that's less than 1 every 2 years. While I don't like to claim that the MU-2 is difficult to fly, it does require precision and adherence to procedures. If you treat it with respect and follow the training, it is an excellent aircraft and a joy to fly. It is a high-performance aircraft, and as with any such aircraft, if you cannot think ahead of the airplane, you are asking for trouble.
That's true with so many airplanes, actually. And
now here's my question.
Yes.
Jeff, and you've, having had accident investigation training, would surely be able to spot if someone has used the wrong altimeter setting from the wreckage. It's a pretty easy thing to pick up where the altimeter is.
Mm-hmm.
So surely that would have been picked up in the initial investigation. One of the first things that I've looked at.
That would, yes, you're right. That would be everything would be frozen in its position at the crash. They would be able to determine that. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure if that. I
don't
mean,
know.
It's a nice thought, but
it's a nice thought. But you always have to wonder. You think that information would be readily available, but maybe it was there and just wasn't published either.
And just to remind everybody, this was an occasion where the airline, I think it was Air Canada, who operated flights into that airport because of the weather situation, canceled those flights. And so this family, because of the funeral or whatever they were trying to go to, said, we need to find some way to get in there. And so they hired this company to do their flying for them. And so right off the bat, that's a red flag to me. If an airline says we're not going to risk sending a flight in there with non-precision approaches with the weather conditions, that's just not a good situation.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if an airline's not going there, I'm certainly not taking any small aircraft there.
So
there's no way.
My only experience with the MU-2 and the Mitsubishi, they kind of a high wing, very cool looking airplane with wingtip tanks, is that when I was a line boy working at a fixed base operated FBO, fixed base operator.
There you go.
I've had too much beer, apparently. I cannot speak straight anymore. I found that with the MU-2, by the way, this is a really good beer. This is Ballast Point Brewing Company out of California, and it's called the Pineapple Sculpin. What's a sculpin? A fish?
It's a
fruit juice.
Yeah.
What?
More fruit juice.
More fruit juice.
You're right. You would not like this at all. I can tell you that. So the MU-2 with these high wings and wingtips, wingtip tanks, when you fuel them, you have to be very careful, because if you fill up one completely, it'll actually tip the airplane over. I've seen this happen. I did not do it myself, but I've witnessed it. So you have to put half a tank full of the tip tank on one side, and then you have to go back or you can get two trucks and do it simultaneously. That's the best way to do it. But if your FBO doesn't have two tanks or two trucks to do that, then you have to put a little bit in one and then go to the other side, put a little bit, it's like a seesaw. So and the other weird thing about the MU-2 is that it doesn't have any ailerons. It's all spoilers. Interesting. It's a very high performance airplane. You have to, it requires a certain amount of skill to fly it.
Skill, familiarity, training, all of the above.
Yeah. So it's a good thing that these, that they're getting this kind of special training to fly the airplane. So thank you, Mr. Anonymous, for sending us that information about that crash. Let's see. We're just kind of picking stuff at random now because we're actually doing pretty well with our coverage of feedback on this show. So, Nick, if there's something in the feedback folder that you want to talk about, please feel free to interject.
I'll have a quick look. Otherwise, carry on.
Well, let's, in the meantime, while you're looking at it, Frick from South Africa says, now I'm not sure about the validity of this article. The date of April 1st is mentioned, but erring on the side of caution, I decided to send this in since there was quite a lot of European members of the APG community. Thanks, as always, for a great show. So thank you, Frick. I know he was in the chat room earlier. I doubt that he's still here with us because it's pretty late over there. Yeah. So the title of the article is New Passport Rule Ruins Millions of Holidays for Travelers Flying to the United States. Even if your passport is technically valid, you could be denied entrance to the United States of America after a new passport rule went into effect. If you're traveling under the Visa Waiver Program, you'd better take a look at your passport. As of April 1st, 2016, anyone entering the U.S. must have a modern biometric passport, e-passport, or they will be turned away under the visa waiver program that was signed into law on December 18th, 2015. To verify that your passport has been modernized, look at the small biometric symbol on the corner beneath the word passport. If you're willing, no, I need to increase the font size here because it's so small.
I tell you, he's just trying to. It's honestly like this minuscule little.
I'm trying to fit in as much as I can in the screen. It's a very small screen, and it's very far away, so that I can see
barely see it.
Many, many things. Okay, so let's go back here. As of April 1st, 2016, anyone entering the U.S. must have a modern biometric e-passport, or they will be turned away under the visa waiver program that was signed into law on December 18th, 2015. To verify that your passport has been modernized, look for the small biometric symbol on the cover beneath the word passport. If you're missing the small rectangle with a circle in the middle, you won't be traveling to the U.S. anytime soon. Travelers have had the option to purchase a biometric passport for nearly a decade, but only recently have they become mandatory for anyone traveling under the visa waiver program. Older passports are still valid, but they will not grant entry into the United States from some countries. Check with your travel authority and confirm your passport is in compliance with the latest laws before traveling to the U.S., as it may take weeks to receive a replacement. So, information about this will be included in the show notes with a link. I don't know.
So it's funny. I must have been one of the last people in the U.S. to get one of the old style passports without the biometric stuff in it, because mine just expired in January. My old one, because I got it in 2006, and I think right after I got my last passport in 2006, they started issuing the ones with the biometrics and the RFID and whatever.
So this is legit. This is not an April Fool's joke.
Well, I know that pretty much across the board, everyone's gonna, if your passport is current, I think it should actually have the biometrics in it.
Okay.
So, or the RFID or whatever information it contains in the little chip that's in the.
Okay.
You know, you get your new passport. I got mine in December or January.
What about you, Nick? Do you have a biometric passport?
Yes, of course. So I come from a country where these things are common.
Of course.
Sorry.
Well, I'm sorry.
I've got two passports. I have one from my mother country and one from my father country. And they're both biometric. Don't you guys do that shit? Oh, sorry, stuff.
Oh, there we go.
Do we do what?
Do that stuff. Don't you? Doesn't everyone get them? I mean, we've been getting them for quite a while now.
Well, I think since so I got my last passport was issued in January 2006. So it expired this year in January, but I think it was one of the last passports in the US to be issued without it. So it's been 10 years since they've been issuing them.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's a while.
Well, our passports time out after, I think 10 years is probably the longest you can get one.
Yeah.
10 years is
5
ours.
years is quite common. So chances of you having an old one is getting less and less common.
Well, I guess that's a warning to anyone listening to the show who.
So if your passport was as old as mine and it's on its last legs and it's going to expire in a month, probably just time to get a new one anyway.
Yeah.
Just you'll need it. And it's probably not just the US, it's probably a lot of other places too that are requiring that these days.
So Sea Captain Bob writes in, he says, "Is this what Captain Nick does?" And so he sent a little link to a picture here. And it says, it's a picture of the flight deck of an Airbus. Meanwhile, in the Airbus flight deck, let's get that start checklist. Sure. On button. Push.
Pushed.
Checklist complete.
So you got Angry Birds on that iPad?
Oh, that's just not
That's what
fair.
happens, right?
Look, I get paid to do that. You wouldn't believe how much I get paid to do that.
They even made a movie about Angry Birds. I guess it's
There you
coming
go.
out pretty soon, right?
Yeah.
And that Angry Birds is a really tough game. Yeah.
Oh,
I found some news here.
You did?
Okay.
This is from Robert.
Okay.
Robert Buzanko. Buzanko?
If you say so.
Robert says, what would cause a false capture of the approach localizer?
Oh, this is good.
Hello to the wonderful APG crew. He must be talking about me. I found your podcast just before the new year and have been hooked. Or as Dr. Steph would diagnose it, APG syndrome.
Doctor, give me the news. I got a bad case of
APG syndrome.
no pills gonna cure my ill. I got a bad case of
APG syndrome.
He goes on to say, I'm very lucky that I live just off the approach path to Charlie Yankee Yankee Charlie, Calgary, Alberta, their new runway, and get to enjoy watching planes come into land from the north at around
Good song if we have one more person to sing.
Sorry. Why don't you go back? I didn't know it was going to start playing.
I don't know, the stuff I have to put up with. I thought this was going to be a professional outfit. All right.
Yes, Stephanie, you were saying?
I'm very lucky that I live just off the approach path to Charlie Yankee Yankee Charlie's, that is Calgary, Alberta's new runway, and get to enjoy watching planes coming into land from the north at around 200 to 300 feet. Usually they're on the ground when they land, but anyway, recently I have been noticing lots of rejected landings on 17 left and 35 right. I believe it could have something to do with the localizer. See attached K doors? That must be like NOTAMs made in Canada, I think.
I think, yeah, it's like the ASSR or what do they call it? CHIRP for you guys.
Okay, confidential reporting system?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Canada.
So my question would be, what would cause a false capture of the approach localizer? Would you either have it or not? Is it because of the dual runways? And what's the procedure inside? Inside where, I wonder, when this happens? If you ever drop by Calgary to see our city full of igloos, let us know. I know Miami Rick will probably fly over on flights from Anchorage to CVG. Help me. ANC to CVG.
CVG would be Cincinnati,
Covington,
Covington, Kentucky.
Anyway, he says they seem to fly overhead and leave that trail of magical brain control dust coming from the back of the 747s. No, that's not dust. That's just bits of airplane falling off. Thanks again for all that the whole team does. Signing off, Robert Bizanko. What a great feedback. Thank you, Robert. Jeff, probably.
Yeah, how about a great answer to that?
Yeah, false localizer capture. Well, people think that these beams are like a torch, and that it's one beam and that's it, and there's no possibility of picking other. But radio waves don't work like that. No aerial is accurate enough to be able to fire off one solid localizer beam without there being side lobes, which are smaller, less significant, weaker copies, like a poor cousin to the main beam, but they are there, and they occur, they repeat out, and as the further they get away from the main beam, the weaker and less significant they are. But there's usually a few on either side. Now, this does depend upon the quality of the aerial, the terrain, any reflective buildings, and other features that surround an airport. But there are airports that are prone to it. Now, it may be that the terrain around this airport makes a side lobe particularly strong. And of course, the aircraft may pick up that side lobe before it gets to the main localizer beam. And if it does, it will occasionally try and home onto it. So that's what happens. Now, we, being professional pilots, know about this tendency, and usually airports that have that a likelihood, they're well written up. So you get them in NOTAMs and you get them in the briefings that we get for airfields. So we're alert to it. And anyway, we would always generally use a second navigation aid to ensure that we were on the QDM of the runway before we were absolutely certain that the localizer reading we were getting was the main beam or a side lobe. So I personally back it up with the VOR. And if the airport's got a VOR and the bearing of the VOR is the same as the ILS, when the beam comes in, then you know you're on the main beam and you don't have a problem following it. But it is possible to pick up a side lobe and follow that by mistake. And when you realize that your mistake close in, then presumably people do go-arounds. That's what I'm thinking in this situation. If it in fact proves to be the case that people, it has a strong side lobe or false localizer capture, and people are doing go-arounds as a result. That would be my thoughts. Jeff probably has more experience of this. I don't know. What do you reckon, Jeff?
But not necessarily more experience, but another thing you can do is put in like an RNAV approach in your display and kind of reference that as well, as long as it's co-located with the ILS course, just to make sure you're not picking up one of those side load or false localizer courses. I haven't really heard a lot about another reason for getting a false localizer capture is accidentally putting in the localizer frequency for a parallel runway. And not that I've ever done that. I'm not admitting to that. But it happens.
You have to put in your, oh dear, doesn't your airplane do it for you?
No, the airplane that I fly does not do it for me, Captain Nick.
Oh dear.
So
that's so sad, Jeff.
But regarding the spurious or side load or whatever you're calling it, or false localizers, we also have to deal with false glide slopes. And that's the reason why, if you look in the plan view of an instrument, ILS instrument approach, you'll see that over the middle marker, which may or may not be the same point at which you intercept the glide slope, there is a value there that tells you what the glide slope or your altitude should be at that passing that point. And that I call that the glide slope check altitude, so that when you're descending at that point, if you're passing that final approach fix and you're at that particular altitude, you know that is a good glide slope and not one of those false glide slopes.
Because it can be reflected up at various. So there's like the 3-degree glide slope, and then 6 degrees and 9 degrees. So if you're high, you could get one of those higher glide slopes.
Exactly.
Which is a false glide slope.
Yeah.
Yep. We have a standard call. I'm sure you did the same. When we go with the final fix, the pilot flying calls final fix, and the pilot monitoring calls the height at which you should be passing over it. So
no, we don't do that.
Oh, okay. That
sounds like a good idea, though.
That's a procedure on our airline, and so you get a chance to check your height to make sure that you are on the main beam.
That's definitely something to be aware of, and it should be something that we call out. That's a good idea.
I hope that answers your question, Robert.
Very good question.
I think it did.
Yeah.
Nice job.
I like that question. Nice to have something different and technical for a change.
Yeah. And without Rick here,
Yeah, we made a good fist of that. He'd probably shoot us down in flames now, but
he'd have so much more to add.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Miami Rick, he should. I think he's like in the very last stretch of his training and
I've heard final days
and everything else. So we're hoping that maybe the next time we do this, he'll be with us. We're looking forward to it.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Matt writes in, greetings, Captain Jeff and crew. Have enjoyed the show for several years. This is Matt Dolan in Des Moines, and have had the privilege of having dinner and a few beers with Jeff a few years ago here in Des Moines. I'll cut to the chase. I have an idea for a new soundbite for the show. Seems like every episode the word phenomenon appears. Having grown up with Big Bird and Bert and Ernie, do you remember the skit with the pink female cows singing Phenomena? Sounds to me like they were saying phenomenon. I'm not tech savvy, but you can find Phenomena Muppets on the tube.
You can find them in Boeings as well.
With Kermit, you could say you're going green, but that's so sad. Oh, there's so many references to things that I should be playing.
Going green.
So going green.
We're going green.
Or
we're gonna take care
so
of
sad.
Going green.
Too many things happening right now. Stop.
We're going
The Going Green people are not stopping singing. Thank you. Okay.
You
Finally.
can't silence them.
So let me know next time you're spending the time or the night here in Iowa. Keep up the great show. Thank you, Matt. It was a pleasure meeting with you. And this guy is like the world's expert on de-icing fluids.
Ooh.
And he goes places and talks about
The
like
different
different
types of-
mixes and being most effective for that kind of thing. Very interesting. Okay, so I looked up Manamana, and you know what? Last episode
We talked about this last time because I started singing this
and
song, and I never sing.
Found a different thing that was not even close to what you were doing. So let me see. I have the link in Firefox, so let me play a little bit of this.
True.
Mana mana.
Hi there, would you like to sing a song with us?
Mana mana.
Isn't that the name of a song? I think so.
Mana mana.
Mana mana? Mana mana.
Mana mana. Mana mana. Mana mana. Mana mana.
Banana.
It sounds very
Banana. Okay, excellent. Thank you,
I
Matt.
like the one with Animal. That's much better.
With who?
Animal.
The Animal did a version.
Oh,
Yes, I
okay. Do
think
I need to
several of them
find
love
that
this.
one too?
Drummer. Yeah.
All
You could put
right.
that in post.
Oh, that's much better.
Maybe just at the end.
I could do that, or I could
Yeah.
do it right now. Animal. And phenomena. No.
Phenomena. No.
Oh, sure. You do it. You type. Phenomena. You're not doing much better than I was.
Look, I found it.
Oh,
That's
you
her
did.
handwriting because she's a doctor.
Okay.
That's why I type everything.
Mana mana. 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 Mana mana.
Okay.
That was an abbreviated version
Yeah,
of it.
that's
That's not the whole thing. The
No.
whole thing's very
okay. Let's see if we can find another one.
Oh, good.
Bunny. Bunny. Where Bunny?
That's not
Oh,
Manamana.
where Bunny?
Oh, this
No
is not
bunny.
No.
the.
Oh.
These are just associated.
Bunny! Oh!
He sounds like an angry mad dog captain.
Okay, going back here. Let's see if we can find it. Find the good link, Miss Steph.
Oh, all the
Maybe-
pressure's on me.
Yeah.
Try that one.
This one?
I don't know.
Mana.
Nope, it's the same thing.
Mana.
Mana.
Yeah, seriously, we'll have to look for it.
This might be it. No?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's it.
This is it?
Yeah, keep going.
Mana mana. Mana mana. Mana mana.
You just winked.
Yes. Well, actually, my favorite version of the song is is a remake by the band Cake. It's very good.
Cake. Do we need to look that up too?
No.
Okay.
I was just throwing that out there as
I'm just
general
hoping the chat room are full of Muppet fans. Now, I know you call them one of the Muppets.
Well,
Jeff,
Micah recognized that as the original from 1969, which is
You're
correct.
right. That was the original.
That was correct.
Liz Piper says, "I'm back. What's going on?" Well, nothing but nonsense.
Now we're just showing the Muppets.
Yeah, we're just playing Muppets.
Looking at things on the internet.
I love it.
Okay. Well, you know what? It's probably with that, we should probably end the show unless there's something that you're just dying to talk about, Captain Nick.
No.
Did you see something else you wanted to cover there?
I was looking, but I couldn't see anything.
You know what? There is one more thing we could do, and just received this recently from Bill Blaster out in Los Angeles. And let's play his audio feedback. I think it's pretty interesting.
Hello, Captain Jeff, Captain Nick, Miami Rick, and Dr. Steph. This is Bill, otherwise known as Blaster, from the West Coast, Los Angeles specifically. I hope all of you are doing well. I just wanted to give you a little voice feedback for a change instead of the electronic kind. I wanted to go back to APG episode 214, where Captain Nick very, very carefully said, how do you double unfilter an IPA? Of course, we're talking about beer. And I just wanted to tell you, I got some expertise from two brewmasters here in California that actually told me what a double unfiltered IPA actually is. So here is the actual definition from two brewmasters here in California. Any particular beer that is made with more hops and has subsequently more alcohol, obviously more yeast that converts into alcohol after fermentation, that's above 8% alcohol by volume, ABV, is classified as a double IPA. But Captain Nick, ever so assertive and descriptive and knowledgeable, you cannot actually double unfilter something. You can only unfilter it once. But the double IPA, which Dr. Steph correctly assessed, the double IPA, which is more than 8%, more hops, more alcohol, is actually only unfiltered once. Hence something, you can only unfilter it once. But the double IPA, ever so assertive and descriptive after fermentation, that's above 8% alcohol by volume, ABV, is classified as a double IPA. But Captain Nick, ever so assertive and descriptive and knowledgeable,
I think I love you. I think I love you.
you cannot actually double unfilter something. You can only unfilter it once. But the double IPA, which Dr. Steph correctly assessed, the double IPA, which is more than 8%, more hops, more alcohol, is actually only unfiltered once. Hence, you have a double unfiltered IPA. So that's the textbook answer for what a double unfiltered IPA is. It can only be unfiltered once, as Captain Nick so observantly pointed out. The other thing I wanted to respond to was from episode 217. I apologize, I'm a few episodes behind. Specifically talking about 121.5 or 243.0 on UHF, which is universally known as, well, I'd say in the United States anyway, it's known as GARD, the emergency frequency probably overseas. And this is my specific story. If you've been an airline pilot long enough, you have made mistakes talking on the radio, and I certainly am no exception. So here's my story. It's a quick one. While flying a 767 one day from the United States to Paris, we happened to be flying from the Midwestern United States, crossing into the French border, the Canadian border in the lovely province of Quebec. Lovely, beautiful place. Crossing over into Quebec, we were talking to Montreal Center, Very professional controllers. Obviously, they speak French to their Air Canada flights. They speak English to us, but they're very professional and they're very, very courteous and do a wonderful job. In any case, while flying the 767, I decided one day to make a PA when the air got a little bumpy. And once I turned on the seatbelt sign, I made the PA, which was our company policy at the time, please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts. I did that first in English. And then because my wife is a fluent French speaker, and she's an Acme flight attendant, Captain Jeff, she taught me how to say the exact same thing in French. So I then said it in French. The only problem was I actually said this over the VHF frequency where we were talking to Montreal Center. And of course, these controllers were bilingual. They were not only English, but also French speakers. And as you might expect, there were some critiques of my French pronunciation, but they were all in good fun, and they were all very professional and very, very humorous. And the French controllers actually gave me some very good feedback on my pronunciation of French words. In any case, that's one story. The other one I wanted to tell you, I was flying from the West Coast to Hawaii, and as you fly over the West Coast routes to Hawaii, you know, you're in oceanic airspace for approximately 4.5, 5 hours. So once you arrive into radar coverage in the Hawaiian Islands, you talk to Honolulu Center. But until you're there, you're actually on 123.45 or 123.45, which is the air-to-air frequency now common to all regions of the Earth. In the old days, it was only one specific area. There were different frequencies for the Atlantic, the Indian Ocean, the Far East, the West Pac, the Eastern Pacific or CPAC, or the NOPAC. They all had different frequencies. Now it's a universal air-to-air frequency that is not an emergency frequency. In any case, we share information obviously about how the ride is and where the clouds are, where the weather is on our route, et cetera, et cetera. In any case, this specific day, I happened to be zoning out after an early morning wake up and a West Coast departure to Honolulu. And as we were supposed to be flipping over to 127.6 to speak to Honolulu Center, I instead checked in with Honolulu Center, I thought, on the air-to-air frequency, which brought a whole lot of comments like, hey, dummy, switch the frequency. Hey, flip your switch. You're talking to air-to-air, blah, blah, blah. But the funniest response I ever heard during the 10, 12, 15 years that I flew to Hawaii was after all that, all the comments had died down, some smart Alex said this. He said, "You're clear to land." So anyway, quite funny. Just wanted to share that. Also, Captain Jeff, I heard you speak earlier how on the guard frequency, which is now like a party line, you know, we never ever spoke on it before 9/11 or, you know, post 9/11. Now, unfortunately, too many people make disparaging comments and just tie up the frequency, which is really, really annoying. It's also tying up a really, really important frequency that needs to be saved for real, true aircraft emergencies. In any case, when you hear the words work, 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 that actually came, Captain Jeff, that came from the movie Blazing Saddles. That's where people get that from. Not sure why they say it. And the other thing I wanted to tell you regarding episode 217 was, Captain Jeff, you made some really, really great comments, and I want to compliment you on honoring our returning servicemen and our fallen soldiers, especially. Our fallen soldiers, airmen, and sailors really, really deserve that respect, and they deserve our patience. And obviously, a lot of these times when you have a fallen soldier in the cargo bay in a casket, their family sometimes will be on board, a casualty assistance officer will be on board. It is a very, very sad time, and I have done that on a few occasions since the war began. I also flew many troops to the Middle Eastern theater and to Central Asia and to Europe and to the Med, and many, many times landed in the Persian Gulf. And I can tell you that flying our United States military is one of the greatest honors I've had during my airline career. In any case, I wish you all the very best, blue skies, tailwinds, and I hope to speak to you again soon. This is Bill Blaster from Los Angeles, signing off.
Thank you, Bill Blaster from Los Angeles. A lot of great points there. And thank you. And, you know,
I learned something new about beer. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we weren't sure about that either, but
yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. It's not I guess they should probably say
They should clarify. There needs to be like a comma there.
there should be like
Unfiltered double IPA.
double IPA,
Right.
instead of a double unfiltered
Yes.
IPA. Yeah,
Semantics.
you're right. Should be some punctuation in there to make it more clear. Regarding the work, when I think the people that are currently using guard and saying work are referring to, even though the reference that you made may be accurate, I think that most of the new generation of pilots out there that are gobbing up the guard frequency, saying work are probably referring to the video series Living the Dream. And we'll put a link to this in the show notes. We've talked about this on other shows. Let's see if this is going to play or not.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. And other crap that
Annoys
pilots.
some pilots.
Excuse me.
It's not very loud, is it?
Can you help me, please? Why, yes, ma'am. I'd be happy to help.
Anyway, and somewhere in this video series, there's a couple of them. They talk about, they say the term.
They're all out at a bar or something, and they're, someone starts saying something, they get in a conversation, and then it just becomes work.
Maybe it's because it's from the initial reference
to Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, Blazing Saddles. Could be. It's been a while since I've watched Blazing Saddles. That's a great movie. Have you watched it?
I have.
Oh, it's great.
I assume that's where you got your breaking wind sound effect from, Jeff.
I don't know where that came from. I'm sure it did. Yeah. Fantastic movie. So, well, thank you, Bill Blaster, for all the great comments regarding IPAs and
what a nice chat.
Fallen's
Fallen soldiers, servicemen, and radio misadventures.
Yes, we've. Of course, I've never ever made a mistake.
None of us have
on the
We're all
radio.
perfect on the radio.
I've never been
all
a
the time.
PA on the radio. On the regular comm frequency. No. Of course, I've done that a couple times. I just heard a recent one. It was really good. The guy was on guard, and he goes, "Oh, this is." He starts talking about himself and the fact that he was a Navy pilot, and he gives his full name.
I'm a naval aviator.
And how many traps he had? I think 128 successful traps on an aircraft carrier, and blah blah blah. And he ends it like, "And you're in good hands because I'm flying the airplane." And oh
that
man,
was on guard.
When he was doing that on guard, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this guy is going to get grilled so badly that it's going to hurt. As soon as he stopped talking, I mean, it was like the guard frequency was like completely blocked. I mean, you could hear everybody talking over each other.
Over each other.
Yeah. 128 traps. Oh man, you're so amazing. And it was just like, but the thing that really got me was how focused it was on him.
His
I
PA
thought,
was all about him.
Yeah. How
No
many
ego there at
hours,
all.
how many traps he had and
That's
everything else.
amazing.
I'm thinking, really? That's just I was blown away by that.
I don't know. At least almost every time I go out flying now, there's something that gets said somewhere, whether it's over a regular frequency or wherever. That's just funny.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, we need to go back and get the live ATC of that because that was just funny. And you want to save that for later, and then you get down and you're like, oh, what did they say again? Oh, it was, you forget so quick. But there's always funny stuff going on.
I'm sure that's the same thing that Nick says on the PA all the time. Let me tell you about myself.
Yeah, no, I said, let me tell you about Captain Jeff.
Yeah. So, I like to talk on the PA, but I never talk about myself. And I don't know. It's because there's really not much to talk about. Okay. Anyway, so
I've got one here, Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, so it's from Jacob Darlington Brown. What a lovely name, Darlington Brown. He's from Sydney in Australia. And he says, hello, Jacob here. Australia just got rid of the majority of its ground-based aids, VOR, NDB, DME, and they have renamed most of the previous aids with new GPS waypoints. And this one, just west of Sydney, sounds very familiar. As we don't usually pronounce the letter R, I think that's something of a stretch there. When used at the end of words like you Americans do, it sounds very much like a fictitious airline used by some well-known podcast. I'll let you figure out which one I'm talking about. Look in the middle of the screenshot, just near the holding pattern. And he's produced a map there. And there in the middle is a waypoint called Acme.
It looks like Acmere to me.
Yeah, I would say Acmere.
Yeah, he says the Australians don't pronounce the R. That's why I say it's a little bit of a stretch. So, yeah.
I'd say
So,
a little bit of a stretch, yes.
Acme, he should have used his chronograph and scrubbed out the R. There you go.
Where's
Anyway,
the Photoshop when you need it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
As we don't say Cavu here, I'll sign off with the Australian version and hope your day is Cav-OK. Hope your day is Cav-OK. It's a poet.
Cav-OK works well for me. Yeah.
There you go. Thanks, Jacob. Yeah, but I think you can do better than that. I want you to show me the waypoint in Australia called Gaffer.
Gaffer.
Yeah, Gaffer is a commonly used term in Australia for the outback, and it stands for the Great Australian Ethel.
Okay, that's enough.
And with that,
we're going to go ahead and close down this show. And wow, it's been a lot of fun again. As always, thank you, Captain Nick, for joining us, staying up so late in the UK.
Oh, it's earlier than usual. It's only 1:30.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's early. The night is
it
young.
is. Yeah, I'm usually up for another hour at least.
Yeah.
Well done, Jeff.
Well done, Captain Nick. Thank you very much for staying with us the entire time. And thank you.
Plain Tales.
The Plain Tales was just awesome. What great story.
The voices.
Yeah, and the voices. I mean, man, you really should look into doing the audio. What is it called? Audible.com?
Audible. Yeah.
Contact.
Yeah, what for some other podcast? Okay, fair enough. I get the feeling. Yeah, I know. Steph's been already trying to fire me tonight once, so
we still have to have this talk after. I'm sorry. I'm not going to enjoy it.
No, you can do it in addition to what you're doing with us here.
Yes.
Yeah, we're just we feel very privileged that you're with us on
Absolutely.
the crew.
I love it. Thanks very much.
And and we love everybody listening to the show, people that are downloading this on iTunes, people are watching the YouTube video, the people are actually here live who really, really love us. We do appreciate you always being there with us. And
if you've never checked out the live show or the chat room, we would highly encourage you to do so. It's a lot of fun.
It is. They're just going crazy.
You'll understand why we're so distracted half the time.
Yeah, so check out the airlinepilotguy.com site and the APG apps. We have both free and paid versions, and it really is well worth your time to spend the $2.99 for the pro version of the app, because then you don't have to look at ads anymore. You got a lot of great discounts now, thanks to Paul Whittle, the app guy. And let's see, the t-shirts, we're expecting to receive them
should be on their way. So we hear.
Yeah. And we're on Facebook, airlinepilotguy.com/airlinepilotguy. On Twitter, APG Crew is the best way to follow all of us. And we'll put out notices for when we're doing the show and when the show is released and that kind of stuff. What else?
And I'm going to make a plug for one of our APG community members, if that's all right.
Yes.
Someone you met on a recent meetup, Jennifer Niffer.
Yes.
Who's in the chat room tonight.
Absolutely.
Was actually a guest on another podcast this week, the Airplane Geeks.
We don't mention that show.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, of course
I'm just kidding.
We love the Airplane Geeks. Great podcast if you're not familiar, and I'm
Yes.
sure you all are. But check out this week's episode of the Airplane Geeks with guest Jen Niffer. And it came out today, so it should be available to
I have
download
not
and
listened
listen
to that yet.
I have not either. Have not had a chance.
I
but
didn't even know she was on the show. until you mentioned
maybe I will on my way home.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Very cool. So
well done, Jim.
yeah, check out the Airplane Geeks podcast, a fantastic show. Been around for a long time, longer than this show, that's for sure. And the folks that do that show are great people.
Very old and boring.
Yeah.
No, sorry.
Who, us?
Sorry, Mike.
Are you talking about yourself?
Yeah, you're not boring, Mike. You're great.
No, that was a great show, and great people doing the show. And we got a chance to meet them last year.
Right
at
around
the,
this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Innovations of Flight or in flight in
at the Udvar-Hazy Center.
Udvar-Hazy.
Are they coming to Farnborough?
So the main podcasters are not, but Micah, Pasadena Brian.
Yeah,
will be there.
Pasadena Brian, one of the associate producers.
And our main man Micah. Will
Main
be
man
representing the
Mike is going to be there
over
too.
at Farnborough.
Excellent.
Yeah,
looking forward to meeting up with both of them again.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So check all that stuff out. And until next time, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care and God bless.
Take care, y'all.
Good night, everybody.
I should probably have turned the lights on because it's starting to get dark.
Well, it got dark in like the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I was going to, then I was like, whatever.
And you almost managed to say unlimited visibility without slurring your words, but you didn't
Almost.
quite.
Not quite. Unlimited. So I'll have to, let me try it again.
Unlimited. So
Wishing you, hang on.
Quiet on the side.
And wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care and God bless. Yes, I got it one.
And that's a wrap.
We're going to use that one.
Excellent. Very good, very good. Well done, you two.
And same to you,
well
sir.
done to you as well.
I must admit, I spent most of the evening watching the television behind you. I particularly liked,
Was it interesting?
the
It's the
TV
Weather
behind
Channel.
you.
It's just the Weather Channel. Are there tornadoes or something
they
going on?
moved on to like some
There's the Duracell bunny most of the time. And at one point, the Duracell bunny had pink ears coming out of the top of your head, which I thought was very good.
Nice.
That's the way it should be. We'd expect nothing less. Seriously.
Well done.
But
I
Yes.
stayed awake this time. Well done. Yeah.
good. Yeah. I mean, we didn't hear any snoring from you, so
No.
that's good.
Liz, Rebecca, Sailor wanted to give the Udvar-Hazy Ballet to attend at 2 p.m. maybe next year. Huh. Jennifer, we're looking forward to listening to your presence on the Airplane Geeks podcast. James, thanks again for that fantastic plaque that you had made for all of us and representing the community. Let's see, Andrew. Who else is still there? Captain Al. And what
Right
did
there, too.
Captain Al said something about? You were talking about? The PA, like accidentally making.
Yeah, it's very hard at the Airbus.
Why is that?
Well, because you got to hold down the PA button on the radio panel if you're going to transmit. You don't just select the channel; you got to hold it in, or you pick up the bloody telephone between the seats, which is what most of us do because the audio
that's the
quality is
safest
better
thing
on
to
that.
do because you know for sure that the only way
Just going to the back of the
it's going to
plane.
go to the back or the intercom.
Yeah,
one of the two. So you're safe.
It's not going out over a
It's not
frequency
being
somewhere.
communicated. Yeah.
The problem with holding, actually, it's a good thing when you hold down the PA button on the comms panel, and then use the mic or whatever to talk. That has quite a hot light under it. And you've got to keep it pressed down all the time you're on the PA. And if your PAs are too long, you burn the end of your finger. So it encourages you to keep your PAs down to about 90 seconds.
Short and sweet. Safe enough, but not
Ladies
too
and
much.
gentlemen, I'm having to leave now because my finger is burning. I'm seeing
Yes,
smoke.
exactly right.
My
That
finger.
might be a problem for someone we know.
Yes, we all welcome the new LED displays that they put on there, a lot cooler.
Yeah.
That's funny. But
All right. Well, I think it's time to shut this thing down. Thanks, everybody, for joining us again. And look forward to listening to the the Airplane Geeks podcast with
whatever their show's
special
called.
guest Jennifer. And thanks for
Atlanta meet up.
after
Chris,
Farnborough.
I'm going to Atlanta pretty soon, aren't I?
Yeah, we
Are
should
you?
do that next time after Farnborough.
Yeah, I do. I have a 2-night Atlanta on the 25th
of June.
Yeah.
There you go. I don't know what my schedule's like for that.
Got the whole day the whole of the 26th and most of the 27th off.
I can tell you where I'll be.
Where?
Where will you
Not
be? Oh, you're going to
Atlanta.
be in Phoenix or something like
No, I'm going to be in Charlotte.
that. Well, Charlotte's not that far from Atlanta.
It's not, but that's like.
Yeah,
Oh wait,
it's
that's
like
the
a-
weekend, isn't it? 25th,
Yeah.
26th. Actually, you know where I'm going to be? I think
You're
At
going to
a
be out of
beer
town, I
fest
think.
somewhere.
I'm going to be out of town.
Yeah.
I'm going to be out of
Falling an airplane or drinking a
No,
silly.
no, none of the above. I've
Oh,
actually
wow.
been talked into, I think, doing my first triathlon
Oh my God.
out at Carolina
Oh.
Beach. So it's actually it's split up kind of funny. So you do swim, run, bike, run, swim. So they split
Oh
the
my
swims
God.
and the runs. And you do like a 300-meter swim in the ocean, and then like a 1.5 mile run, a 20K bike ride, and then all in reverse.
Well, don't get confused. It must be a devil of a job swimming with a bicycle.
That's tricky. It's
Yeah.
tricky.
Actually, the bit that always amazes me is how they manage to do the clothes change in between, or how they manage to
yeah,
ride a
so-
bike for miles in a swimming costume. I thought that would have chaffed a bit.
See, I mean, I grew up swimming, so I basically lived in a swimsuit from the time I was 10 until 18. So that's no problem. So I think I'm just going to keep it simple because it's a relatively short race as far as triathlons go. So I'm just going to wear my
Je-
usual swimsuit, throw on a pair of
Steph, when
shorts
you
for the
say
bike.
short, I think
Mhm.
like 25 miles.
Yeah, it's less than that. So it's 300 meters swimming, a 1.5 mile run, 20K bike ride, which is 12.4 miles, and then another 1.5 mile run and 300 meters swim.
Okay.
So it's
just
short.
a taster.
Yeah.
Well,
Should
good luck with that. Excellent.
So we'll see how that goes. I've never done a triathlon before.
Oh, wow. Oh, you'll be doing Iron Man woman
I don't know about
before long.
that. I've thought about, but honestly, the training that goes into that, like, I just don't have the time. You really have to be running, biking, swimming constantly, and training constantly. So I'll stick with a few things that.
Jeff will show you how. He's pretty good at that.
Oh,
sort of
yeah. That's
He's the expert
triathlons.
triathlete.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's that weekend. So I'll be out at
Yeah.
Carolina Beach, North Carolina.
And I can
to do
drink
that.
3 beers at once as well.
I think by the time, from start to finish, by the time I start the triathlon, to the time I finish, you guys could easily consume 3 beers.
Oh, easily.
Oh, yeah.
Before you even start.
It wouldn't be a
I
race.
mean, it starts at like 8 o'clock in the morning, though, so keep that in mind.
No problem.
No problem.
No. I get up at 6. I have 3 beers down by 6:30. That's a normal day for me. Okay.
No.
All right. Well, beer run for Jeff. No, that was a bathroom run for me, James. After drinking all that beer. Wow. These early mornings and beer, not a good mix. All right. Well, I think it's time for me to shut the hangout down. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Always a pleasure seeing you in the chat room.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And congratulations on getting some audio that works, Jeff.
Yeah, did it sound okay?
Yeah, just a couple of patches where I thought it was going back to its old habit.
Yeah.
But they were relatively short-lived.
I hope that the new piece of equipment that I've ordered that should have next time will resolve the problem. If not, then we'll just go back to the drawing board.
Well, it was. I mean, I think it's perfectly acceptable for 99% of the time. I just only heard it just for a short period. And
I heard it too. Yeah.
I don't know quite what you'd done
now
differently.
it sounds fine.
Does it?
Well, the great majority of the show, it sounded fine, so I shouldn't worry too much about it.
Now, Chris, I'm back to actually the virtual digital mixer via Audio Hijack and using it. Actually, I'm using an analog Mackie compact mixer, the 402 VLZ4 for basically the interface through a Griffin iMic external USB card. And but the USB, I think, is the problem. So I think
it's that compatibility issue.
I think
you're
the
talking about?
Thunderbolt is going to be I'm hoping is going to be the answer. I ordered a Thunderbolt mixer. I mean, a audio interface, and we're going to see how that works. And if not, then I'm just going to stop doing podcasting.
Oh,
I don't know why I'm
dear.
sitting over here in the dark now that we're done.
Yeah, well, all of a sudden we had this nice bright light from the window.
And then the sun went down.
Then
It's
it
like, ooh.
really went down rapidly.
It went down quickly.
I thought all of a sudden we're like in the dark. What's going on here? Okay, well now we have the lamps on. Let's see. Man, it's almost 9 o'clock here.
Yeah.
So you need to get back to your house.
No,
Poor Taco needs to go home.
Taco's been asleep for the last hour.
Yeah.
He was falling asleep just sitting on the chair and on the bed.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had a long day.
He was a good boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only
Steph took a couple of good pictures of Taco.
They're on Twitter.
Licking. Oh,
I haven't put that one
there?
on Twitter yet, but I will. I'll have to look for the best one
Yeah.
during what was that, during Plain Tales?
Yeah, we were listening to Plain Tales, and while we were listening to that, Taco was on my lap and licking the heck out of my face.
Yes. Lots of kisses.
There must be something in your moustache he really likes, Jeff.
He was like licking your hand too when we were sitting here. Jeff was like trying to do stuff on the.
I'm just a sweet person.
That's right.
No, I think it's a bit of an old hamburger.
That old man smell.
I smell
some food debris stuck in your sieve there. Your soup sieve.
That's got to be it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, go to bed, sir.
Yes.
Well, I feel like another beer now. So I'm starting to wake up.
Well, go have
or whatever
a beer.
you like.
Do whatever.
I've had 3 already.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to stop the broadcast, so let me hit the stop broadcast button.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Yeah.